subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Attention was turned. He turned off the alarm clock in his hand. The bell just now means that the registration time has ended. The mouthless examiner looked at the candidates and said slowly, "Its sound is small though." However, in this already calm tunnel where the sound of heartbeat can be heard, and with a little skill, the voice clearly reached the ears of the candidates. Blah, blah, blah. In the dark tunnel, a large group of people were running. These people are exactly Mu, the group of candidates, and the examiner. The speed is getting faster and faster. No way. Why did the people in front start running? It seems that the examiner started to speed up. What does it look like? This is the examiner speeding up. In the team, there were subtle discussions. The examinees, however, discovered that the speed of the examiner leading the team was slowly increasing. I haven't introduced it to you yet. I am Seisai, the examiner of the first test. I will lead you to the second test venue. As the examiner, Sasai, while striding forward with his legs, spread his voice gently to the ears of every examinee. This statement confuses many candidates. Why did you go to the second test venue? What about the first test? Chapter 53, Breathing Rhythm, 4 Flowers. The first test is actually very simple. Candidates only need to follow the second examiner to the second test venue. In the eyes of many candidates, this seems to be a very simple endurance test. However, the smart people of the candidates knew it. This kind of endurance running without knowing the time or the final test location. It's okay for short time, but if the time is too long, it is actually the most tormenting. Of course, this matter has nothing to do with Mu, and it has nothing to do with Gon. Not even related to Kurapika. Only Leorio, who is less physically fit, has a huge relationship. Of course, Leorio didn't feel this way at this time. Whoosh! At this moment, a figure quickly passed by Mu and the others. "Hey, you're so despicable. You're breaking the law." Leorio pointed to the skateboard under Bai Mao, Kiya's feet in front of him, and shouted angrily, "Why?" Kiya turned her head and asked with a puzzled look on her face, still asking why. "This is an endurance race, a test of our endurance. Yet you cheated." Leorio shouted angrily. "No," the examiner said, "as long as you can keep up with him." Gon turned to look at Leorio and said. Leorio looked at Gon angrily and shouted, "Ah, Gon, which side are you on?" Then he said very unhappily, "Damn it, if I knew this was the case, I would have brought a motorcycle in. Actually, I also thought about this kind of thing, but I didn't find a way. How can I bring a motorcycle into a restaurant?" Mu interjected. "Oh, damn it." Leorio froze for a moment, then curled his lips and shouted in displeasure. "Leorio, shouting indiscriminately will only quickly waste your energy, and also, you are too loud," Kurapika said. Slowly, the tone was very flat, but the meaning in the words made Leorio even more angry. "Bastards, I want to break up with you." Leorio pointed at Mu and the others grinned and shouted, "Ah." Gon stared at Leorio with wide eyes. Obviously, his young heart was frightened by Leorio's serious words. "He's lying to you." Mu pressed his temple and explained to Gon after hearing what Mu said. Gon breathed a sigh of relief. Afterwards, he started talking with Kiya. Kacha, Mu casually took a picture of the care of the two of them. Regarding this, Gon and the others are no strangers to it. Only Kiya is very curious. After questioning, Kiya was overjoyed, pointing at Gon and laughing. In the sound of joy, time flies by. In a blink of an eye, it has been running for more than 3 hours. However, even after 3 hours, none of the candidates in the tunnel was left behind. This situation made Mu very emotional. If this was in the previous life, with the final distance of 42 kilometers in the marathon, this group of candidates would have finished running long ago. So how could they continue to run? Time continued to pass. Slowly, the examiner who ran ahead seemed to start to speed up again. For this matter, Mu and the others didn't feel it. They just increased their speed slightly. Perhaps without damage transfer, Mu would be a bit difficult to deal with. However, as far as the current situation is concerned, As long as Mu is not dead, then he can keep running without stopping at all. But compared with Mu, Leorio's situation is much worse. After running for more than 3 hours, Leorio began to lose his physical strength. This can be seen from the sweat on Leorio's body surface and his slightly panting breath. In his case, if he keeps running like this, he will reach his limit in just 1 to 2 hours. Especially now, Seisai was speeding up. This time maybe faster. Leorio's situation was noticed by Gon and the others. Gon was in a hurry. However, he doesn't know how to help Leorio. As a last resort, Gon looked at Mu and asked for help. Seeing this, Mu sighed. I really found out that if you're asked to run, you're really running hard. Looking at Leorio's situation, Mu also said with emotion, don't you know that you need to adjust your breathing rhythm for running? Breathing rhythm? Leorio and Gon asked in surprise, and Mu nodded and said, it seems that I don't know, Gon, you don't need to know this breathing rhythm. You could just exercise according to your instinct. If you know, it will hinder your performance. Yes, people are different. Gon's talent is extremely strong. Relying on instinct, he can adapt to the breathing rhythm that suits him best. This kind of breathing rhythm, if learned by others, can also become stronger, but it may not be suitable for others. In particular, this breathing rhythm is not suitable for novices. After instructing Gon, Mu looked at Leorio and said, then you have to listen to what I say. I will call a relatively basic breathing rhythm, although the lungs will be uncomfortable at first, but it can make you persist come down. Thank you. Leorio nodded gratefully without further ado. Mu taught Leorio some simple running breathing rhythms. Leorio is worthy of being a medical student. He knows his body very well. Coupled with his unyielding perseverance, this forced Leorio to quickly enter that state. At this time, Leorio has been able to control his breathing rhythm and slowly adjust his physical problems. Although, as a beginner, he is not very proficient in this. But from Mu's point of view, this is already very good. Here, Gon saw that Leorio's breathing rhythm began to slow down, and his physical strength recovered a little. He also accepted Kiya's invitation, said something to Mu, and ran to the front line. Mu didn't keep up. He knew he had to run for a long time. In addition, there is nothing to grab here, so there is no difference between running ahead and running behind. Therefore, Mu chose to run slowly, as long as he does not fall behind. You're welcome. It's a very simple technique. You just need to pay attention, and you can easily find that all the candidates present know some of these techniques, including that little fat man. Mu stopped Leorio's thanks and pointed to the front, not far away. The little fat man said, Chapter 54. The 3 Murray brothers pounce on the street. Flowers asked. Time passed slowly again. Mu and Leorio were running. They were not the last batch of candidates. They passed the little fat man that Mu had just shown Leorio to explain, and the 3 Mori brothers were surrounding the little fat man. It's just that, compared with the panting little fat man who was on the verge of dying, the 3 Mori brothers beside him were in very good condition. Or run, or jump. The 3 of them had been running for so long, but they didn't show any signs of fatigue. It was seen that the 3 of them were physically strong. Fool! Stupid! Stupid! A burst of insulting words suddenly sounded from behind, which made Leorio turn his head and look over. Seeing the performance of the 3 Mori brothers, Leorio was very angry and stared with gritted teeth. Leorio even cursed at the 3 Murray brothers a few times. He even wanted to drive away the 3 Mori brothers. However, it was stopped by Mu. What do you want to do? Mu stopped Leorio and said, what are you doing? Of course I'm helping him. Fair competition, they use such despicable means. Leorio said angrily, that fat man's situation is obvious at a glance. Even if the 3 people are driven away, it won't help. Mu said slowly, this is Hunter's test. In that state, even if he perseveres, he will just throw his life here. This. Leorio was stunned for a moment, and then reacted. Seeing the situation on the little fat man's side, he bit it, and then continued to shout at the 3 Mori brothers. It was just that, and he didn't go up to stop the drive. Obviously, he also agrees with what Mu said. It's just that he just can't understand the behavior of the 3 Mori brothers. If Leorio can scold, then the three Murray brothers will also scold. After scolding the little fat man to the point of collapse, the three of them set their sights on Liurio. This time, no money, just scolding Liurio. Gone. Moo raised her brows involuntarily as she listened to the swear words in her ear. It's fine for you to harass others, but now you're still bothering him? Give you face. Moo's expression froze, and with a flick of his feet, he dodged towards the three Emoli brothers. I am so special that I am not Hisoka's opponent in terms of tossing speed. Isn't it the opponent of you bastards? Thinking like this, Moo quickly approached the three Mori brothers. Maybe it's because the speed is still not too fast, and the strength of the three Murray brothers is not bad. Therefore, Moo's actions were immediately discovered by the three Mori brothers. Regarding this, the three Mori brothers laughed disdainfully, and then wanted to start a war with Moo. Whoa, idiot Moo grinned, and was thinking whether to speed up when the other party came directly to her door. This saved him a lot of trouble. Bang, bang, bang in the next second. The smug expressions of the three Moli brothers froze. Then his eyes were white and he fell to the ground. Mate, it's so cool to scold, Moo said impatiently afterwards. Regardless of the three Moli brothers who fell to the ground, they continued to run forward. Liurio, who witnessed this scene, widened his eyes and looked at Moo's back in horror, unable to speak for a long time. What? Are you going to give up the hunter test? Moo turned his head and looked at Liurio and asked. Liurio finally came back to his senses and rushed up in a hurry. You killed them? Liurio asked in surprise. No, I'm not a murderer. Moo waved his hand and said, however, they want to continue to participate in the hunter test. I don't think they can do it. Liurio breathed a sigh of relief. No one wants to be with a murderer, even if this person is Gon's cousin. But Liurio didn't know. Not killing the three Mori brothers is not just because Moo is not a murderer. In addition, there is also Moo who thinks that the three Mori brothers are not guilty of death. Also, Moo doesn't want to turn against mainstream people like the Hunter Association before he learns the Yin key skills he needs. The two continue to run, and slowly, they passed many candidates who started to fall behind. Even he is caught up with Kurapika, the guy who runs in the middle. Yo, Kurapika, you're here too. Liurio greeted Kurapika very proudly. Liurio, is it really okay to waste energy like this? Kurapika looked at Liurio and said. Liurio smiled and said, it's okay. I'm used to this breathing rhythm. Hearing this, Kurapika noticed that Liurio's breathing rhythm became much calmer. This kind of talent also made Kurapika look sideways. Look ahead. Isn't it? Do you do that? Just when Kurapika was about to speak, there was a flurry of movement in the large army of candidates in front of him. The three of Moo looked over, and there were three expressions on their faces. Moo doesn't matter. Kurapika is firm. Liurio's face was pained. Is it necessary? How long do they build this staircase? Liurio complained. According to the number of floors we go down to the tunnel, there are 100 floors. Even if it is only 3 meters, it is about 300 meters. Coupled with the gentleness of the stairs and the angle of inclination, I think it should be more than 10 kilometers. Kurapika estimated and analyzed. Liurio didn't want to talk anymore. He was tired from running the marathon, and now he had to climb the stairs. Wouldn't it kill him? The staircase that may be more than 10 kilometers long in front of him made Liurio's eyes dizzy. Suddenly, Liurio sensed something was wrong. Hey, that examiner actually started to speed up again. Liurio couldn't help shouting, and Moo glanced at Liurio, but didn't speak and ran away by himself. Liurio next to him was still worried, but after a while, he found the candidates around him. Not long after climbing the stairs, their speed began to drop rapidly. Moo, Kurapika, this is an opportunity. Liurio shouted excitedly after the words fell. He started to accelerate on his own. Seeing this, Moo and Kurapika glanced at each other, easily allowing him to keep up with his own speed. Liurio, you didn't take the hunter test for money, did you? Kurapika ran beside Liurio and asked Chapter 55, Tunnel Exit, for flowers. As for Liurio and Kurapika discussing their childhood stories, and Momu didn't think to listen too much. He already knew about this kind of thing, so there's no need for them to say it themselves. The dull climbing of stairs continued. As time passed, Momu finally saw the tunnel exit ahead. This test was really boring, but fortunately, it finally came to an end. With an unhappy mood, Momu quickened his pace a little regardless of Leorio and Kurapika and walked out of the tunnel exit. Standing at the exit gate, Momu looked at the scene before him as he walked. The Lamani wetlands, also known as the Lair of Deceit, is an area where a large number of rare and wild beasts live by trapping and hunting. In the plot, this scene does not take much space, but the information displayed is very rich. Therefore, Momu is also very impressed here. However, the deepest impression is Hisoka's examiner game, in which the gorgeous and murderous picture. However, this stuff doesn't seem to have anything to do with Momu at all. He is not afraid of Hisoka. Even if he is at the end of the team, he can pass the level without injury. That's how confident it is, even if there was no one around them at that time. Momu can also use a super wide-range attack to forcibly kill Hisoka. Of course, Hisoka had to come to the door alone. If Gon was on the sidelines, there was no way but to ignore Hisoka. In the plot, Gon will encounter Hisoka. Although in the plot, he passed safely. However, now is reality after all. Momu will not leave Gon's safety to fate. After all, he promised Mito to take care of Gon. If this makes Gon die here, what's the face of him? If it weren't for this, Momu would be able to fly by himself. So why would he need to walk slowly here? He is lying. This is a lie. You must not believe his words. At this moment, some important information about the Lumini wetland was introduced here. Next to the tunnel, a man who was clutching his waist walked out, and he was seriously injured at first glance. He is a fake. I am the real examiner. The person next to the tunnel yelled at the candidates, trying to tell them the truth. In order to make his words sound more believable, he even pulled out a dead ape monster who also looked seriously injured. Look at this. This is the famous monster in the Lumini wetland, the man-faced ape. Don't you understand after seeing this? He is pretending to be an examiner to deceive you. The man looked at the examinees, angrily shouted, loudly faced with this kind of discourse. There are many wavering people among the candidates. They talked a lot and looked at Seisai in surprise. Among them, Leorio is also in this column. I only heard. Leorio looked at Seisai in surprise and said, I was deceived. He is just a fake. Are you being stupid, or are you trying to lighten the mood? He himself said that the man-faced ape is a kind of magical beast with slender hands and feet, who can only pretend to be a human being and use sweet words to deceive its prey. What do you think? The person in front of you who can always lead in the tunnel, the speed examiner who is pressing down so many candidates, is some kind of fraudulent creature with a human face. Momu said helplessly. Hearing what Momu said, Leorio reacted, and then he could only smile dryly and cover the back of his head. Seeing this, Momu was speechless. He is transmuter. Leorio is transmuter. Razor is transmuter. 3 transmuters have 3 different personalities. If it weren't for the fact that the 3 of them were a little careless in their work, Momu believes that Hisoka's personality analysis method is effective. Whoosh whoosh at this moment, several cards flew through the air like blades and shot towards Sasai and the fake examiner. Chi, the 3 cards were cut into the fake examiner's head with ease like a sharp knife cutting tofu. Its power is so great that it is not lost to gun bullets. Even more powerful than a gun bullet, the card had already been directly buried in the fake examiner's head, leaving only a bit of the end of the card. Suck. The candidates gasped. Mata, if this cuts on his body, wouldn't it be so cold? The card is a little more effort. It can cut the guy's whole head. With such great power, it is simply not like what ordinary cards can do. How the hell did he do it? I can't afford it. I can't afford it. Thinking like this, many candidates swallowed involuntarily. So that's how it is. That's how it is. The ones here are the real examiners. Hisoka squinted his eyes and said laughingly while playing with the cards in his hand. The examinees looked in the direction Hisoka was looking at, but they happened to see the cards that Sats held in both hands. Being able to catch this kind of cards that can easily sink into the head with bare hands The candidates also confirmed Seisai's identity as the examiner. All of a sudden, many candidates laughed awkwardly. Then the team set off again. At the very beginning, Mu suggested that it would be better to follow Seisai. And now, Gon and his group are also running closely behind Seisai with Mu. As soon as he walked into the Lumini wetland, Mu couldn't help raising his eyebrows. Looking down at the muddy ground beneath her feet, Mu went straight to trouble. He doesn't care about speed and stamina. It's troublesome to say so, but it's because Mu doesn't want her shoes to get dirty. Not paying attention to these anymore, Mu ran with a relaxed expression. Running and running, Mu found that the distance between Liurio, Kurapika, and Gon was Kia, which was getting wider and wider. Mu shook his head at this, but it didn't catch up. What Mu has been paying attention to is the various conditions of the wetland here. It's very dangerous in the Lamani marsh. Moreover, the dangerous things are not just the ground under your feet. There are also those rare monsters in the wetland that need to be paid attention to. Gon is very sensitive to crisis response. Generally speaking, as long as you are careful, Gon will not fall on those monsters. Here, the most dangerous one is Hisoka. Chapter 56. Lumini Wetlands for Flowers. Running, Mu suddenly found that their surroundings slowly began to be filled with fog. At the beginning, the mist was still a faint layer, but slowly, it became so dense that the surroundings became invisible. The figure in front of him was nothing more than a faint black shadow. This scene directly caused the candidates to fall into uneasiness. Candidates who ran halfway down the line, they all knew one thing. Once in this invisible place, if you lose the trace of the team in front, that means that they have fallen into an unprecedented crisis. The death rate will also increase greatly. Candidates who want to understand this, in order not to die here and then lose the qualification for the hunter test, they all quicken their pace. He intends to catch up with the figures of the examinees in front to avoid his own death. It's just that they're doomed to fail in this kind of thing. Because Hisoka, who was slowly falling into the middle of the team, couldn't bear it anymore. First, he was aroused by Mu, and then he was upset by the boring test of the tunnel marathon. The current him is like a powder keg. He can hit it with a single touch. He even said that he would catch it at any point. So, not long after the mist rose, Hisoka began his examiner hunt. What's going on? Liurio asked, frowning and looking ahead. Running beside him were Kurapika and Mu, who seemed to be traveling. What else can it be but that Hisoka can't help his murderous desire? Mu explained casually. Kurapika looked ahead, heard the tragic cry, frowned and suggested, "We can't get any closer. Let's make a detour." Yes, I agree to detour. Liurio nodded his head in response. He really didn't want to deal with a guy with amazing strength like Hisoka. If he could avoid it, he would still choose to avoid it. Of course, it would be impossible for him to escape like a dog. Avoiding and running away are two different things. The two reached a consensus and then looked at Mu at the side together, waiting for Mu's answer. "I don't want to take a long way." Mu did not agree with them. Instead, continue to run forward, even if the big boss Hisoka is in front of you. Listening to Mu's words, Liurio and Kurapika couldn't help being stunned. Then he hesitated. "Sorry, I have to be a hunter because I know there is danger ahead, but when I can avoid it, I don't want to rush in." Kurapika said slowly. Liurio struggled. He wanted to follow Mu, the person who helped him. However, becoming a hunter and making money so that more patients can be treated for free is his biggest dream. Knowing that there is danger ahead, and there is no need to forcefully rush into it. If you still have to work hard to break through, it would be too stupid. Don't worry, you two should take a detour. If you come here together, I can't use it, Mu said. Waving his hands, Kurapika and Liurio looked at Mu in surprise, then nodded to Mu. Then they ran out together to the right. Here, the three parted ways. This scene stunned the candidates who followed them. He looked at the back of Mu, and then at the back of Kurapika and Liurio. For a while, I didn't know how to choose. However, there's not much time for them to choose slowly. If you continue to choose, Mu or Liurio will disappear. For a moment, the candidates who were behind Mu were divided into two groups. One group followed behind Mu, and one group followed behind Liurio and Karapika. Take 5 steps to the right here. Running, Mu looked at the situation ahead and said something in his heart. Without hesitation, the figure moved 5 steps directly to the right. What? Candidates who didn't know what Mu did. When Mu safely crossed that small area, they didn't change their body shape and ran straight ahead. No, in this kind of place, any situation cannot be taken lightly. One mistake was to let many candidates behind Mu step on the landmine mushroom. Bang! The landmine mushroom that was stepped on directly burst out a large number of spores. These spores entered the candidates' bodies in an instant. In an instant, it multiplied on these candidates. In an instant, these candidates lost their lives one by one. The danger index can be imagined. Listening to the screams close to her ears, Mu remained indifferent. Glancing ahead, he jumped up casually and landed 5 meters away in a parabola. The candidates who followed closely behind him, although they don't know how Mu avoided these dangers. But after seeing Mu's actions just now and the miserable conditions of those candidates, he did so without hesitation. They jumped up one by one. However, without Mu reminding them, they didn't know how far to jump. What? No, some candidates jumped too short and fell into the ambush of the hidden giant frog. In an instant, it entered the stomach of the waiting giant frog together with a piece of soil. Looking back, Mu found that there were still many candidates behind her. This made him raise his eyebrows involuntarily. Then go ahead. Thinking like this, Mu continued to look forward. After a while, his complexion changed. Mu found that there was a group of very beautiful butterflies flying slowly in front of her left. When they were flying, with the flapping of their wings, a little phosphorus powder floated out of them, shining in the mist. It's like a dream. However, although these butterflies look unusually beautiful, it does not mean that these butterflies are not dangerous. Because these butterflies are in this wetland, they also have a troublesome name hypnosis butterfly. As long as the creatures inhale those phosphorus powders for a moment, they will fall into an uncontrollable deep sleep. Hey, it's usually fine, but if you sleep soundly in such a dangerous place, you are undoubtedly gambling with your life. Now the flying direction of this hypnotic butterfly just collides with when Mu passes by. Chapter 57, Hisoka's Broken Arm, for Flowers. Puff, Mu didn't care about the group of hypnotic butterflies and rushed over directly. The body and breath are contaminated with a lot of phosphorus powder that makes people sleep. However, Mu's movements didn't seem to be affected at all, and his footsteps were still so stable. Could it be that the phosphor powder of the hypnotic butterfly has failed? This is clearly not the case. This point, from the damage energy that Mu has been slowly increasing, we can know that Mu is not immune to this kind of damage. Yes, hypnosis is also a kind of harm to Mu. It seems that as long as it is hurt in Mu's subjective opinion, it will look like hurt. Ignoring the hypnotizing butterfly's attack, Mu briskly ran forward. Mu's brisk movements caused serious misjudgments to the examinees following him. They think that Mu can run there, which means it is safe there. Immediately, without even thinking about it, he rushed over directly. Puff, puff, then, the candidates who rushed into the hypnotic butterfly's phalanx first fell to the ground and fell into a deep sleep. Seeing this scene, the expressions of the candidates who followed behind changed. Then he braked quickly and stopped his footsteps. Then, looking at the back of Mu who was going away, he gritted his teeth for a while. There was resentment and jealousy in his eyes. Among this group of candidates, it was obvious that they attributed this incident to Mu's trap. However, even though they were so jealous, they had nothing to do with Mu. Don't say blame now. Whether you can even keep up as a question, well, get rid of it. That's good. It saves me from having to take care of these idiots when I go to war with Hisoka. Mu glanced behind him, muttering in satisfaction. Without hesitation, Mu speeded up directly. Mu, who concentrates on her journey, is extremely fast because he doesn't need to think about turning. In this case, Mu only needs to use the energy stored in the golden core to bounce himself out. It's simple and fast. Soon, Mu rushed to the position where Hisoka played the examiner. Here, Mu saw Hisoka standing alone in an empty place. And around him, there were quite a few candidates lying in disorder. At this time, these candidates are already beyond salvation. After all, they are all dead if they can be saved. That is resurrection. The two are two different things. Looking at Hisoka standing in the center, surrounded by corpses, Mu didn't have any intention of talking to him. This time, he came here just to test the combat gap between himself and first-rate Nin. His basic strength is not good, so he can only rely on the energy stored in the golden core to fight. The amount of energy stored in the golden core determines the upper limit of Mu's strength. But as said before, reaction speed can be the biggest disadvantage of Mu. Boom, in an instant, Mu charged at Hisoka. A flick of the muscles under his feet, coupled with the momentum of the moment when the golden core energy sprayed out from the soles of his feet, made Mu's speed break through 100 in an instant, at least at straight-line speed. Facing Mu's actions, Hisoka was stunned, and then ecstasy climbed onto his face. Whoosh, throwing out a few cards wrapped in yen ki, Hisoka's figure dodged to the side. Slap, although the speed of the cards is fast, the power is not bad. But the moment he touched Mu, he was directly shattered by the power sent back by Mu. Boom! Then, Mu slammed heavily on the position where Hisoka stood just now, smashing a shallow hole in the ground. Hisoka didn't care about this. He had seen moves that were more powerful than this one, let alone such a shallow pit less than 1 meter. Without any hesitation, Hisoka punched the face of Mu, who was right in front of him, and sideways to him. Boom! Hisoka's fist landed heavily on Mu's face, and then Hisoka flew upside down. Obviously, this is Mu using the ability of damage transfer, directly sending back the damage Hisoka inflicted on him, and bless some golden core energy along the way. Bang! Hisoka, who didn't know why, hit the ground a few meters away heavily and turned over in his body. After spinning around in the air, he stood on the ground. Hisoka, who was already 10 meters away from Mu, didn't do anything this time, but looked at his trembling right arm with a surprised expression. Bone cracked. Hisoka said in surprise, moving his arm, feeling the pain on it. Hisoka looked in the direction of Mu. When he turned his head, the yin ki on his body was also gently circulating, wrapping Hisoka's right arm. He is not an enhancer, and he has not practiced the enhancer's recovery none, so he cannot perform high-speed healing on his arms. But despite this, Hisoka is able to forcibly adhere to the position of his fractured bone with his own nun's flexible love, so that he can maintain a relatively intact state. Boom! At this moment, Mu attacked Hisoka again. With an even faster speed, he smashed at Hisoka. The time was right at the moment Hisoka turned his head. Okay, faster. Hisoka paused in surprise and crossed his hands in front of him without any hesitation. Hard. Gathered all his display capacity directly on the arm. Bang! Instantly, Mu's fist collided with Hisoka's arm. In an instant, Hisoka's body flew upside down with a powerful force. Just a broken arm? The reaction speed is too fast. Mu stood where he was, frowning and looking at Hisoka with his hands hanging down in the distance. Afterwards, he looked down at the sticky pink strip of thought energy under his feet. Although the thought energy disappeared quickly, it prevented Mu from attacking Hisoka again. Hisoka grinned as he looked at Mu, who didn't continue to attack after his mind energy disappeared. He didn't care about his crippled arm at all, but shook his right hand that he had just protected with his mind, very proud, and licked his lips with his tongue involuntarily. Ability, it should be a rebound. Chapter 58. The second test begins. 4 flowers. Boom. The Lumini wetland, which was slowly calming down, suddenly sounded a loud alarm today. Everyone couldn't help but look at the place where the sound came from. Suddenly, everyone's pupils shrank suddenly, and they looked at the dirt slowly falling from the sky in horror. Hey, is this someone who planted a bomb in the wetland and blown up the dirt? It should be that some candidates were too unlucky to encounter the traps set by the Hunter Association. Otherwise, we didn't encounter them, but they did. Listening to the discussion next to his ear, Sai, who is the examiner, was stunned because he knew that he hadn't planted any bombs in the Lumi Ni wetland at all. After all, he didn't need such things. In this case, it is obvious that the location of the explosion just now was definitely caused by the candidates themselves. To be able to make such a huge amount of damage, Sai couldn't believe how strong it must be. Bang, at this moment, a green-haired woman rushed out of the warehouse behind the candidates, and after a few jumps, she stood on the top branch of a big tree. The wings of his nose fluttered slightly, and his complexion became extremely ugly. There is no smell of gunpowder, so it is not Sasi's arrangement. The green-haired woman came up with a guess in surprise. At the same time, I also became a little interested in the person who caused this movement. Shaking his head, he ignored the candidates who came over. After waving and saying hello to Sasi, the green-haired woman returned to the warehouse. At this time, Sasi also restrained his expression. No matter how exaggerated the situation in the wetland was, he could only pretend that he didn't see it. Even so, Sasi was very worried at this time. If the person who caused this situation had a conflict with Menshi, maybe the situation will be difficult to end. Just when Sasi was worried, on the side of the wetland, Mu, who had just blown hundreds of meters away with a punch, retracted her arm, turned her head and looked in one direction. What a FG cheater. Can we avoid it like this? Mu looked at hundreds of meters away and complained to Hisoka, who was still standing despite his wobbly body. Yes, the power of Mu's strike is an attack that President Netero can bear to death. He got out of the way by Hisoka. This means that Hisoka was in just less than 1 second. It actually spanned a distance of hundreds of meters. The speed directly broke through the speed of sound. Of course, Mu could see for sure that was not Hisoka's running speed. Instead, he used his own nun, that kind of elastic thought energy, to wrap himself, and then used the big trees on both sides to eject and achieve it. Hisoka is treating himself as a marble, Nyanki as a rubber band, and the two big trees as slingshot sticks. The initial velocity of an ordinary slingshot is around 70 per second, and the more advanced slingshots can easily break through 100 muzzle velocity. Even the limit speed can reach a speed of 160 meters per second. This is still the case in everyday life. Obviously, none cannot be calculated according to common sense. As a first-class nin player, Hisoka's strength cannot be underestimated. His power is even more powerful with a talent like Ki, who stabilizes the voltage. Even if Hisoka's body is more than 100 caddies, when he uses this slingshot to eject, its speed is still very easy to break through the speed of sound, especially when Hisoka is desperate. Of course, this method cannot be used frequently. It consumes a lot of thought energy, and it will be dangerous when it lands. It will only be used in special cases. And before, when avoiding Mu's attack that brought him a sense of death crisis, it was the best time. But even then, Hisoka was injured enough to be hospitalized. Ho 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 ho, I wish I could keep fighting. But Hisoka grinned, and he looked at his physical condition. Without any hesitation, he turned around and left. Looking at Hisoka's somewhat embarrassed back, and Mu's eyes flickered. In the end, he still didn't choose to pursue. This time period is not very suitable for killing Hisoka. It is better to find another time. With this in mind, Mu shook his head and shook his arms. Then he took a step and ran towards the second test site. Just now, he has confirmed the position from high altitude. As long as he follows the direction, he will be able to arrive. Along the way, Mu didn't care about anything and ran towards the predetermined direction. The damage transfer ability allowed Mu to directly ignore all kinds of traps and rushed over like a reckless man. Not long after, Mu finally arrived in front of the warehouse of the second test venue. Here, many candidates have already arrived at the venue. However, Mu's focus is not on them, but on Hisoka. Mu looked around but couldn't find Hisoka. This made Imomu feel rather strange. What followed was only speculation. Hisoka hadn't arrived yet. However, as time went by, Imomu discovered that Hisoka still didn't show up. After a while, the examiner called the examinees to announce that the first test of the hunter test was over. Hearing this, Imomu realized in a daze, Hisoka, this pervert who wanted to have fun in the hunter test. He quit the hunter test. This situation is something that Imomu did not expect. He thought that Hisoka would continue to participate in the hunter test with his seriously injured body. But now it is discovered that Hisoka did not choose to do this. TSK regarding this. Imomu couldn't help curling her lips. He was just thinking about finding a chance to kill Hisoka in the next test, but now it seems that he has no way to do this. Galulu, in the air, there was another roar that seemed to shatter the air. Hearing this, Imomu withdrew her own eyes and looked over. As the clock stopped exactly at 12 o'clock, the warehouse door in front of Imomu is also slowly opening. The scene that first came into the eyes of the candidates was the two figures, one tall and one short, a man and a woman. The woman sitting in front is a normal woman. Chapter 59 changes in the plot. Imomu's seriousness, asking for flowers. Although the woman's clothes were a bit revealing and she didn't look like a girl from a good family, she was still a human being after all. However, the man behind the woman was way off the mark. Even if she was just sitting on the ground, her standing body was better than that of the woman sitting on the sofa. It must be at least 1 to 2 statures higher. The huge size really gives people the feeling of a mountain rock. Behind the two, there are rows of kitchen tables. Candidates, this is the examination room for the second test. I am your examiner, Food Hunter Menchi. The woman said directly after finishing speaking. The man behind him also answered, I am Food Hunter Bokara. This time the test question is cooking. As Menchi's question was mentioned, the candidates on the scene started talking about it, and a large number of candidates expressed their displeasure at this, and even laughed at Menchi's position as a food hunter. Menchi was very upset about this, but he still endured it. Cooking, this is the second test question. You just need to prepare us some food that satisfies us. Menchi, sitting on the sofa, shaking the 5 braids on the back of his head, casually crossed his legs and said maybe other people don't know who Menchi is, but Imomu, who has watched anime, knows a lot. Menchi, as a gourmet hunter, is impeccably professional. But because of Food Hunter, her character has also become extremely picky. Once annoyed, he will become like to be carried by others. Just now those candidates laughed at Food Hunter. Imomu could already imagine how troublesome the next test would be. Now, if you want to pass the level of Menchi, I am afraid that even the head chef of a 5-star hotel will not be able to pass the level. Imomu pressed her temples with a headache. What's the matter, cousin? Gon looked at Imomu eagerly and asked, It's okay. I just feel that the next test will be very troublesome. Imomu said helplessly, Haha, don't worry. If it's just cooking, I'm still very sure. I will help you when the time comes. Leorio said with a big smile hearing this. Imomu paused, then looked at Leorio with a strange expression. Not only Imomu, but also Kurapika, Gon, and Kiya beside him have this expression. Obviously, none of them believed that Leorio's cooking skills would be good. Seeing this, Leorio was very angry and wanted to argue. First of all, the dishes I specified. I want to eat a whole roasted pig. As long as it is in this forest, any pig is fine. Bahara said, drooling, only qualified people can continue to take my test. And the qualification standard we set is very simple. That is delicious. Yes, as long as we say it's delicious, you've passed. The deadline for the test is based on our food intake. Menchi said jokingly. Bang, 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 as Menchi's voice fell, there was a sound of chaotic footsteps at the scene. However, the candidates around Imomu had already run out of this area to find the ingredients they needed pigs. Seeing the positive actions of the candidates, Menchi nodded his head in satisfaction and suppressed the anger raised by the candidates' sarcasm just now. Imomu, why are you not in a hurry? Could it be that you want to give up becoming a hunter? Leorio asked Imomu, who was walking unhurriedly behind hearing this. Gon, Kiya, and Kurapika running in front of Leorio all looked back at Imomu. Obviously, they were also curious about it. Don't worry, As far as the current situation is concerned, those candidates, even if they know the exam questions, are useless. That's Gourmet Hunter. Do you really think that you can pass their test if you make a little food? Emomu looked at the candidates in the distance with a look of disdain and said, "Ah, this." What Emomu said surprised Leorio and the others. Then I thought about it and found that it was true. In the Hunter, the Gourmet Hunter branch, generally speaking, usually goes in and out of various dangerous areas for delicious ingredients, and the difficulty is no worse than that of the Bounty Hunter. It's just because the earning power of low-level Gourmet Hunters is not as good as that of general bounty hunters. Kurapika explained to several people in a low voice. So, according to what Emomu said, this test may really depend on the tastes of the two examiners. Oops, I can't cook, Kia and Gon shouted together. Usually you are not self-reliant, but I still have a little confidence in cooking. Leorio smiled proudly. Emomu thought of the performance in the plot of Leorio and reminded that what they need is delicious food, not survival food that can fill their stomachs and eat immortality. Listening to what Emomu said, Kurapika nodded in agreement. What you two mean? I usually cook for myself. Why can't I eat it? Leorio shouted angrily. Oh, do you know the steps of roasting a whole pig? Emomu asked casually. Leorio's face froze. We have to catch the pigs quickly, or they will preempt them. For Leorio's way of changing the topic, Emomu is very contemptuous. The complexions of Kurapika, Gon, and Ki are also very strange. Seeing Leorio blushing, angrily shouted at the four of them. Hurry up, or you won't be able to pass the test. Don't worry, that Buhara's test questions are very simple. We can't pass it. Emomu shook his head lightly and said, the problem now is that Minchi is what we need to care about. She's not that easy to get along with. I can't help, but Emomu is not worried. The current plot has long since become a rich and old thief who doesn't know each other. Although the plot is cleared with the help of President Netero. But now, even Hisoka has withdrawn from the Hunter test, so what else will not happen Seisai didn't call? Minchi insisted not to pass the test to the candidates, and Netero didn't pay attention to this side. No matter which one it is, it can cause Emomu's goal of becoming a hunter to be defeated. Chapter 60, if you don't pass, then make trouble. Hearing what you said, I feel that our next test is very pending. If that woman directly said that our food is not up to standard, wouldn't we be designated to be eliminated? Lirio said, very annoyed. No, I still need to find my father. I can't fail here. Gon said, seriously glancing at Gon. Emomu looked away. In the field, it doesn't matter whether Kiya thinks about becoming hunter or not. The rest are necessary to become hunters. Therefore, these things need not be said much. In order to be able to pass the level, we have to find a way. Emomu said, what way? Leorio asked happily. Emomu narrowed her eyes slightly and said, I will finish that Minchi's exam carefully in a while. Once she really has the idea of not passing the test for the examinee on July 13th, she will have to make a fuss. We'll only have a chance if we get someone from a higher level in the Hunter Association involved. I agree. Kurapika nodded first. Leorio breathed a sigh of relief, and then said with a smile, since there is a way, it's much simpler. Look at me. I must make the scene extremely lively. Please, what Emomu is talking about is that woman who won't let us make trouble when we pass the customs. Don't make trouble together. We were disqualified from the test. Kia rolled his eyes and interjected. Haha, small matter. It's time for us to catch pigs now. If we slow down, we may not be able to catch up. Leorio changed the subject and said, although the topic shifted a bit bluntly, but it was agreed by everyone. After all, regardless of the second stage of testing, the most important thing now is the first stage of testing. The few people didn't say much. They continued to run towards the forest, intending to find pigs in the forest here and plan to get a pig back. As for roasting a whole pig, hey, Emomu has never done such a thing in his past and present lives. Cooking, let alone anything. In this world, most of the food is obtained by ordering takeaway or go to the store to eat. And not to mention the previous life. Even if his mother asked him to cook, he didn't ask how much water to put. Now, let him roast a whole pig. It's just a joke. Eat if you're not afraid of death. By the way, who of you can roast a whole pig? Mo asked while running. It's not easy to roast a whole pig. Just roast it on the fire and then brush with sauce. Leorio interjected triumphantly hearing this. Mo didn't even look at Leorio, but turned to Karapika and the three of them. Hey, what do you mean? Isn't that how a whole pig is roasted? Leorio shouted angrily. Leorio, although I have never roasted a whole pig, I think the internal organs of the pig should be taken out before the test. Gon said hesitantly. Kian nodded and said, Indeed, among the roe-suckling pigs I eat, there are no internal organs. Looking at the situation of the four people around, Karapika couldn't help but sighed, then slowly said some steps of roasting a whole pig. Fortunately, he has read enough books. Even if it is roasting a whole pig, he knows a little bit. After listening to Karapika's words, Mo's eyes lit up. They lamented that roasting a whole pig is not difficult at all. This emotion made Karapika look sideways. I really can't figure out why Mo and the others are so confident. Okay, if you don't catch pigs, it will be too late. Karapika urged Mo and the others to say in this regard, Mo is not worried. In this forest, there is only one kind of pig, and that is the wild boar. This kind of pig weighs at least a lot. Most importantly, the weakness of this type of pig is protected by the huge nose. The difficulty of defeating them is not low. On the court, Mo doesn't think everyone can do this. Rumbling at this moment, Mo and the others suddenly felt a slight vibration from their feet. It seemed that the ground was trampled by a huge force. Several people looked along the source of the shock, and various changes appeared in their eyes. In front of that, a group of examinees rushed towards them with an ugly face and a large group of boar-nosed wild pigs running wildly. Here we come, Mo said with a smile. Wow, there are quite a lot, Ki said, looking at the group of Hauyan pigs with ease. There are so many. Which one should we catch? Gon asked in confusion. Karapika didn't say anything. He was trying to figure out which one of the jaguar was injured, and if there was one, then he would be dead. Hey, hurry up and step aside. If you're hit by those pigs, you will be injured. Leorio shouted, anxiously facing Leorio's words. Mo and the others did not respond. Whichever pig bumps into you in a while, then catch which pig. You don't need to think about it. Mo suggested. This proposal was approved by Kia and the others. They all nodded and then stood up separately. Seeing this, Leorio's face was stiff, thinking that Mo and the others were crazy. After hesitating for a moment, he followed suit and stood aside, looking at the group of big-nosed mad pigs in front of him. Soon, the group of big-nosed and wild pigs rushed in front of Mo and the others. One of the stronger, big-nosed wild pigs aimed at Xiaomu. Well done, Mo said with a grin. With a leap, Mo jumped into the air. Then, without any hesitation, he kicked the head of the big-nosed mad pig. The powerful force directly smashed the skull of the big-nosed mad pig. Brain-dead, big-nosed mad pig 1.0 fell to the ground and hiccuped, then slid a few meters on the ground along the inertia. It's easy, Mo said with a smile after finishing speaking. He directly lifted the big-nosed wild pig that fell to the ground. Come on, I'm going back first. Mo greeted Karapika and the others, and ran towards the warehouse without looking back. Their weak point is the head. Mo, who ran away for a while, could not help but twitch her mouth. Listening to that familiar voice, Mo felt very headache. He thought that Gon wouldn't shout this time. Who knows, finally shouted out. This made the examinees who hadn't found a way to kill the big-nosed mad pig, but were hunted down. They successfully killed the big-nosed mad pig one after another. Chapter 61. The first candidate to pass the customs, Mo returned to the warehouse and found that he was the first one back. He raised his eyebrows and then found some kitchen knives nearby. After walking back to his own grill, Mo looked at the huge dead pig in front of him. Well, let's get started. Mo nodded and then started to follow the cooking steps heard from Karapika. I saw Mo holding a kitchen knife in his right hand and walked directly in front of the belly of the big-nosed mad pig in front of him. Scoffy raised a knife and stabbed the big-nosed wild pig in the belly. Puff! Immediately, Mo swiped hard, and a huge gash was made in the belly of the big-nosed mad pig. In an instant, the blood and some internal organs of the big-nosed mad pig sprayed out from the wound and fell to the ground. At the scene, the smell of blood became stronger in an instant. Moo frowned, held his breath, picked up the huge wooden stick at the side, and cleaned the internal organs of the big-nosed mad pig. 05 While the internal organs were pulled out, which made the big-nosed wild pig empty at once. At this moment, the examinees who ran back after Moo got busy too. Pig hair and internal organs are not processed. He directly took down the barbecue iron rod, stabbed it hard, and instantly pierced it from the chrysanthemum of the big-nosed mad pig to his mouth. Then it was struggling to put it on the grill. During the period, someone saw the way Moo handled it, and his complexion changed. Hurry to find the kitchen knife. With a knife in his hand, he bled and cleaned the internal organs of the big-nosed mad pig directly on the grill. For a while, the grill was filled with all kinds of internal organs, blood, and other sundries. He pulled out the internal organs casually. Candidates began to ignite the fire. Seeing this, Moo was slightly surprised and then hastily accelerated her speed. Although it is known that Bahara can eat dozens of porcupines. However, don't be afraid of 10,000, just in case. After casually cleaning up the blood on the big-nosed mad pig, he put on the grill and started to roast it. For this disrespectful approach to ingredients, Minshi, who was sitting beside him, looked very ugly. She's extremely upset now and can even be said to be very angry. If it weren't for the fact that she was still in the test, she might jump out and beat up Moo and his group. Such a waste. Angry, Minshi revealed a little of his habits. For example, her right foot was shaking involuntarily at this moment. Looking at Minshi's situation, Bahara was very entangled at this time, and he didn't know how to deal with it. Moo doesn't care about Bahara's entanglement. He is still working hard to roast the whole roasted pig in front of him. During the period, Moo also saw Gon and the others walking back. The kitchen knife is there. Hurry up. Moo pointed to the kitchen knife on the side and said, "Oh, thank you, Moo." Liurio said happily this also saves him a lot of time. The few people did not hesitate and started to deal with the big-nosed mad pig according to the steps Karapika said before. Then, like Moo, it was grilled on the grill. According to Karapika, it is not difficult to roast a whole pig to taste delicious. Just make a few regular cuts with the kitchen knife on the body of the big-nosed mad pig. The next step is to brush with oil, brush with soy sauce, and sprinkle various seasonings so that the meat inside the roast pig can be cooked and tasty. Then rotate the rocker boringly to keep all parts of the roast pig at the same heat. Finally, according to the taste of the eater, sprinkle some seasonings such as cumin powder or chili powder. In this way, a delicious roasted whole pig that ordinary people can make is successful. As far as the food at Food Hunter is concerned, then forget it. Impossible. Time passed slowly. The roasted whole pigs from Moo's side are roasted so fragrant under their almost identical processing steps. The smell of barbecue slowly took over the smell of the scene, and also covered up the smell of blood and fish that was still stinking just now. This situation also attracted the attention of all examinees, including Minshi, Bahara, and Seisai, who was secretly observing from the tree. It's okay, at least some candidates have cooking skills. The anger in Minshi's heart subsided a little. On the other hand, after watching the whole roasted pig by Moo, the candidates couldn't help but look at their own roasted whole pig. His complexion changed drastically, and they imitated Moo and they began to brush the roast pig with oil and seasoning. It's just that the way they apply oil and seasoning is really too rough. It's like plastering the wall. This made Minshi, who had calmed down just now, the trigeminal nerve on his forehead became tense again. Damn, why does such a BD exist? What do they think of food? Toys. The anger in Minshi's heart became even stronger, and his eyes wished to scare all the candidates present. Too bad. Sasiai saw this scene and felt helpless in his heart. Time flies. Soon, Sham's whole roasted pig was finished first. Without any hesitation, he directly brought the whole roasted pig that he had just roasted and came to Bahara, whose 307 saliva was about to flood into a river. "This is my roast whole pig." Mu gestured to Bahara. Bahara couldn't wait any longer, so he directly grabbed the whole roasted pig that was twice as big as Minchi's body in Mu's hand, put it in his mouth, and ate it wildly. The huge mouth bit off a third of Mu's whole roasted pig in one bite. Kaba kaba, the roasted meat and bones were in Bahara's mouth, crunched like tofu, and then swallowed by him. One bite, 2 bites, 3 bites. Looking at the Bahara in front of him, who performed 3 mouthfuls and 1 pig for himself. Mu is dumbfounded. Then I laughed out loud, tasty. After eating, Bahara directly talked about his feelings at this time. Great, it worked. Mu grinned. Bahara licked his lips with insatiable desire, then nodded to Mu and said, "You passed." At this time, Bahara was in a good mood and smiled with his eyes closed. Mu smiled and returned his grill. He has already cleared the customs and then only needs to wait for the second half of the test to start. Chapter 62, Do They Know How to Do It? How is it? Mu, Leorio asked curiously. Obviously, I clear the level, but you still have time to wonder about this. Why don't you hurry up and take a look at your whole roasted pig? Mu responded, then looked at Leorio jokingly and reminded hearing this. Leorio hastily returned to his own grill, watching the fire. Soon, some candidates sent the whole roasted pig to Bahara first. The roast whole pig brought by Mu before made Minchi feel that the situation was not too bad. But when she saw the roasted whole pig sent by the second candidate, anger couldn't stop rushing into Minchi's heart. Can eat? There's a model for them to copy, and it can still be baked like this. This is not a technical problem at all, but a problem of carelessness. The steps are so clear, just pay more attention, read more, and collect more information. You could get a roast whole pig that is not bad. Even if the taste is not very good, at least it is still within the edible range of ordinary people. But now, Minchi looked at the roasted whole pig in front of Bahara, which was charred and bloody. Nerves were almost broken. Angry Minchi almost couldn't help jumping up and used the roasted whole pig on the face of the examinee, who was the second to send the roasted whole pig. Looking at the smug examinee, Minchi felt flustered. This is no longer coping, but completely treating her and Bahara as fools. What annoyed her the most was that, as her partner, Bahara, a foodie, showed off the whole roasted pig with 3 bites left. Afterwards, he also gave the examinee a delicious clearance evaluation. All of a sudden, Minchi was out of breath and almost choked to death. Fortunately, not all candidates are so reckless. Thanks to the hard work of Gon and the other 4, they brought a pretty good whole roasted pig. This steadied Minchi a little. The test is over. The second test, the first stage, a total of 71 candidates passed. Minchi gave Bahara a hard look and then announced the number of people who cleared the level this time with a cold face. Hey, he actually ate 71 whole roasted pigs. What kind of a pot is this? Bahara's performance really scared all the candidates. Even Leorio and the others are discussing this matter at this time. Minchi looked unhappily at the candidates who were talking about it. He glared at Bahara angrily again. Seeing this, Bahara could only smile dryly and did not refute. The test for roasted whole pigs is too loose, which Bahara himself knows. However, the Hunter Association needs fresh blood to join. It has always been demanding, so it is better to choose some people with good character. However, Minchi doesn't think so. She believes that the Hunter test must be highly demanding. What if she came to test it, be soft? That is absolutely impossible. Listen to me clearly. Now the second half of the test starts, and the food I want to eat is sushi. Minchi was very dissatisfied in her heart, and she didn't hide it. She said the test questions she wanted to set with a cold face. Sushi. Which place is this dish? Have you heard? I've heard it, and I won't tell you, idiot. Minchi's test questions appeared. Except for a few people who already knew what sushi was, the rest of the candidates were confused and asked the people around them. However, no one knows about this kind of dish that is too small. At the scene, only Mu and Hanzo, the guy from the sushi production area, knew about it. Even Karapika, who has read a lot of books and knows the ingredients needed for sushi, doesn't know what sushi looks like. Seeing the candidates like this, Menchie slowly became complacent with his angry expression, then began to introduce the origin of sushi to the candidates. The information is very simple. That is, the place where the sushi is produced. Other key information was not mentioned at all. Put your ears up and listen clearly. Although it's all sushi, I only accept nigiri sushi, you know. If you know, then start testing. Menchie said seriously as soon as Menchie's test order was issued. The candidates all ran to Curry's kitchen table and stood still, regardless of whether they could make sushi or not. However, they don't know anything. They can only stand in the kitchen and think hard. Sushi? What on earth is this? That guy didn't give us any information. What? Kia said angrily. Hearing this, Leorio also complained in agreement. I read this record in an ancient book. Sushi seems to be a combination of rice and fish dishes. Karapika thought, and said the information he had read before. Wham! Leorio just wanted to exclaim in joy, but Emomu pinched his chin, making him unable to speak. What do you want to do? Emomu looked at Leorio and asked, could it be that you want to call out the ingredients you need? What? Listening to Emomu's words, Karapika, gone, and Kiol looked at Leorio strangely. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm in a hurry. Leorio said with a dry smile. Let's go find the fish. Don't worry, for sushi, I actually know that it does use rice and fish as Karapika, Noma Zhao said. Emomu waved his hands and said in a low voice, however, the fish needs to be sliced, and the rice should also be shaped into cuboids the size of 2 thumbs. 2. Leorio, who was about to shout, looked at the eyes of Emomu and the other 4, and couldn't help swallowing the words behind him. Emomu then continued, the making of sushi is very simple, so we must complete it as quickly as possible, and then send it to that Menchie. Are there any questions? The 4 of Karapika looked at each other, then shook their heads to say no. If not, then let's go. After all, Sham took the lead in turning around and walking toward the warehouse gate, followed by Karapika, 4 people. The actions of a group of people immediately attracted the attention of everyone in Songkuri. Do they know how to do it? Chapter 63, either too tight or too loose. What? There are still people who can cook this kind of dish in my hometown. Hanzo exclaimed in shock, looking at the backs of Emomu and the others. The actions of Emomu and his group, as well as Hanzo's stupid self-explosion, instantly let the examinees know the fact that Emomu and his group and Hanzo can make sushi. Wow, in an instant, the examinees rushed towards the warehouse door in a hurry. Can't miss it. Candidates hurried and finally caught up with Mu and the others. It turns out that fish is needed to make sushi. In front of the examinees, Emomu and 5 people are catching fresh fish in the river. Immediately, in the minds of the examinees, it was immediately determined what the ingredients needed for sushi were. No, they really know. Hanzo shouted, holding his head like a dead father, it seems right. The examinees nodded their heads in satisfaction and found that their guess was correct. Puff puff, without any hesitation, the candidates jumped into the river one after another and started fishing. Facing the situation of the examinees, Emomu and the others smiled and brought up the fresh fish they just caught from the river. Then went ashore. Goodbye, let's go first, Leorio said very embarrassingly after finishing speaking. He shook the fresh fish in his hand along the 420 way with a very proud expression. Leorio, if you become a public enemy, you will be finished. Emomu kindly reminded Leorio forehead. Hearing this, there were also the sights of Kurapika and the others who were watching from the side. Leorio's expression changed involuntarily. He withdrew his hand with a dry smile, and his steps straightened up. Seeing this, Kurapika shook his head amusedly. Then I saw Emomu, the person who had just persuaded Leorio, was catching the herring at the examinee behind him with a crazier pace than Leorio. All this. Leorio and the others looked at Emomu dumbfounded. Didn't you say that? Leorio asked hesitantly. It's a bit boring. I'll see if I can attract their hatred and finish the hunter test. Emomu retracted his arm casually, explaining why he did so. Hearing this, Kia's eyes lit up, and he hastily raised his arm to the examinee behind him. In fact, he also felt aft that the hunter test was boring and there was such a method, so he also wanted to try it. The actions of several people made the group of candidates behind them very angry. They sort of had their eyes on Mo and his group. Try to make it as soon as possible. Back in the warehouse curry, Mo urged then start making sushi directly. The process is very simple. Just as Mo said before, they slice the fish on their hands and then use their palms of different sizes to form a cuboid rice ball of different sizes. Finally, put the sashimi on the cuboid rice ball and pinch it to finish. That's it. A very simple sushi was made. The 5 people who had finished making the sushi walked quickly to Min Shi with the sushi confidently. "Hey, try it. This is sushi," Liurio said with a hint. He looked at the 5 people in front of him and the 5 pieces of sushi on the table that were almost identical except for the size. Min Shi looked very unhappy. "Tisk, it's fine if I know it, but I still tell others. Let me see what kind of sushi you guys can make." Thinking about it, Min Shi stretched his chopsticks into the leftmost sushi plate on the table under the gaze of Mo and the others. I picked up a piece, dipped it in soy sauce, and put it in my mouth. The taste is just SOSO. The rice balls are squeezed too hard, and none of the rice remains intact. Poor review. As Min Shi said, he ate another stack of sushi. It's no different from the last one. If you have more strength, go to move the bricks. Min Shi looked upset, but he didn't spit out the sushi in his mouth. No need, she doesn't waste food. Afterwards, Min Shi ate the sushi of the other 3. If it is evaluated, it is mediocre, and its strength is either great or small. Then she took a sip from the glass beside her. Calm Min Shi put down the cup in his hand, looked at Mo with both eyes, and said with a smile, "Not qualified, go back and do it again." "Gone. That be D, didn't we make the sushi? Why didn't you pass the customs for us?" Back at the kitchen counter, Oli said cursingly, "It's probably not tasty. Let's make it more delicious." Gon said with a smile, "But we are here to participate in the hunter test, not to learn how to cook." Liurio held his head and said, very unhappy for this point. Mo and Kia agree very much. "Let's hurry up and make the second one," as she said. Karapika said while getting busy. Mo and Liurio looked at each other. It was to look at Gon and Kia who had already started. Sighing, he also joined in. They started making sushi according to the problems Min Shi pointed out. There is no strange modification, just to control the intensity. Soon, several people from Mo finished the new sushi. Several people stood in front of Min Shi again, but their moods were completely different. If it doesn't work this time, we're really going to make trouble. All are unqualified. The strength is too loose. Damn it. That woman is definitely targeting us. Liurio shouted angrily, "Go on. We still have many chances." Karapika started making sushi again. "I'm still doing it. How can my cooking skills be improved so easily? I'm afraid we will be able to do it a few more times," Kia said with a very unhappy expression. "But if we don't do it, we won't be able to pass the level." Gon said what Gon said was not wrong. It also made Liurio and Kia calm down for a while. "How many pieces of sushi do you think she can eat?" Mo suddenly asked. Obviously not everyone is that big guy with such a big appetite. And the other candidates came back. Chapter 64. The outraged Min Shi hearing what Mo said, Liurio and the others couldn't help but look towards the warehouse gate. However, as Mo said, many candidates have already returned. With so many candidates, not many are needed. It only takes one round for Min Shi to be filled. In other words, Mo and the others simply don't have a next chance. If they don't succeed this time, they're doomed to fail. But just look at Min Shi's take on their sushi. Mo and the others really don't think they can pass the level in Min Shi's hands. If so, what else is there to do? Thinking of this, the faces of Liurio and Kiyo were very upset. Take a hunter test and end up failing because of poor cooking. This is outrageous. Gon, Karapika, why are you doing it again? Liurio asked, looking at Gon and Karapika, who didn't give up. Maybe it will work next time, Gon said with a smile. Gon is right. We don't know if it will be successful next time. Maybe it will be successful, Karapika nodded and said, seeing this. Both Taya and Fu Oli were persuaded. also joined in. Only Mo was alone, watching the show on the sidelines. He really didn't think it would work. Thinking like this, he watched the four of Karapika come to Minchi with newly made sushi. Then, less than a minute later, he was rushed back. "Yo, welcome back," Emomu said with a smile. "Ah, that woman is targeting us. It is impossible to succeed at all. We are not chefs." Leorio said angrily, just when Emomu and the others were discussing what to do next. This guy Hanzo, officially holding a piece of sushi he made himself, came to Minchi very confidently and put it down. Then proudly said to Minchi, "Eat it and pass me." Terrible attitude and disrespect for the food. Also, the sushi they make is even worse than the ones made by Emomu and his team. Sushi is obviously Hanzo's hometown dish, and he eats a lot of it himself, but he doesn't know the steps of making sushi at all. Of the two pieces of sushi that came out, one was too strong and flattened. One piece was not strong enough, and it fell apart before Minchi could clamp it. With this kind of performance, Minchi can still give him a pass. That's the hell. Go back and do it again. It's not as good as 400 success. Minchi immediately asked Hanzo to go back and make sushi again. Hearing the verdict, Hanzo also knew that this test would not last around. Immediately, he talked about the steps of making sushi, and that sushi is just such food. "Okay, I'm sure it's impossible for anyone to pass the test next time." Emomu nodded and said, "Let's get ready. This time we want to continue the test and let the higher level examiners in." To this, Leorio and the others didn't believe it. How is it possible that no one can pass the level? Immediately, he observed carefully. However, the more they observed, the more surprised Leorio and the others became. It was really hit by Emomu, and then none of the candidates could pass Minchi's test. When Emomu and the others were discussing how to do things, outside the warehouse, Sasiai was squatting on a branch and hiding herself with leaves. At this time, I also noticed that Songkuri's progress was not good. If it is really allowed to go on like this, then no hunter will be born this year. This is not good. There are many excellent seedlings in this year's candidates. If they give up, who knows if they will appear next time. If this kind of seedlings are not tested in the next session, then the Hunter Association will suffer a great loss. It is even said that if these seedlings join other forces, it is very likely that there will be no opponents in the new generation of hunters. Sasiai was very worried. Without any hesitation, he took out the mobile phone directly from his arms, pressed a few times casually, and called the general manager of Hunter's Test. Only the current president of the Hunter Association, Netero, can be the general manager of the Hunter Test. Not even the 12 earthly branches, because they more or less have their own ideas and even want to reform the Hunter Test charter set by Netero. 0. Seeking flowers. After a few beeps, the phone went through. It was Netero's secretary who answered the phone. That is, the Do Mion guy who distributed the number plates to Mu and the others. Next, it was Seisai who reported the test situation he said he had seen to Domian. Seisai, who was paying attention to the situation in the car, soon discovered that the test on curry was coming to an end. "Okay, I'm full." Minchi, who was sitting on the sofa, put down the chopsticks in his hand, then knocked himself on the head with a face of embarrassment and said with a smile, "Full. What does it mean?" Minchi spread his hands and said with an expression that I couldn't help it, "That means this test is over and you are all unqualified." "Ta, all?" The candidates looked at Minchi in disbelief. "Just kidding." However, after a few seconds, the candidates did not see Minchi changing his decision. BD, who can accept this reason? The unprecedented absurdity made the candidates very angry, especially people like Leorio. "I worked hard, overcame many difficulties, and came to this level with perseverance. Isn't it just to get the hunter certificate and become a hunter to make a lot of money? But now, someone actually lost their qualification for this year's hunter test because of a poor cooking taste? Can this be tolerated? It's so unbearable. Even dogs can't bear it." Iurmi felt very troublesome at this time. His next assassination mission happened to need the assistance of Hunter's certificate. Without Hunter's ID, his work cannot be performed. But now, he has to lose the props to complete the task because of a food taste problem. Isn't this hindering him from carrying out the task? Generally speaking, Yirmi would directly kill those who obstructed their mission. A few chanting needles were clamped in his hands for a moment, and he looked at Menshi, with waves of malice slowly radiating from his body, and he rushed away crazily. What? Menshi's body froze slightly. Yu Guangmiao turned towards Yirmi. Chapter 65, questioning Menshi. Isn't it because of the taste? Faced with the dissatisfaction of the candidates, Menshi didn't care and even smiled and asked the candidates to work harder next time. Now, however, Menshi found that things seemed to be in trouble. Although she wasn't afraid, but in the hunter test, the examiner was injured because of the examinee's counterattack. Then the examiner was completely reduced to a laughingstock, just like the idiot from last year. But obviously, Illumi was not the only one who was almost blown away by the candidates. Boom! At this moment, a loud noise caught everyone's attention. Looking for the reputation, he saw a tall, fat man standing beside a smashed kitchen table with an angry expression. Stop joking. How can this kind of thing be accepted? Just because of a trivial matter like not knowing the taste of the so-called 997 food, I was directly judged to be disqualified from the hunter test, and I didn't come here to be such a waste job as a food hunter. Everyone in Liurio knew this person, because they had heard about it from Tampa before. Tumen no, 255 is a powerful fighter. Just like this, his fist smashed a 5 centimeters thick stone slab, but his hand was unharmed. It is enough to see that this is a top player in the entire human group. That is to say, I have not yet learned to recite the breath. Otherwise, the strength should not be underestimated. Menshi doesn't care about Tumen's anger. She is now focusing on Ermi, who is on the sidelines and is alert to Ermi's actions. Seeing that he was ignored, Tumen became even more angry. No more patience. Shouted and headed towards Menshi. This action made Yirmi and Mo Mu stop their plans and stood where they were, quietly watching the development of the situation. Boom! However, Tumen, who rushed to the front of Menshi, was slapped by Bahara behind Menshi before Menshi could make a move, and was slapped away like a broken doll. Mo Mu clearly saw the rising spirit in Menshi's body. TSK. If Bahara didn't fight this time, that Tumen would be disabled even if he didn't die. Mo Mu waited for a while, but Netero and the plot did not appear. I also guessed in my heart, maybe Seisai didn't go to inform. If this is the case, then something must be done. Mo Mu nodded to Liurio and others beside him. Watching Mo Mu's movements, Gon gave a dry laugh, and Kurapika closed his eyes with an expression of not wanting to get involved. There are only two people, Kia and Liurio. One is eager to try, and the other wants to show his strength. Facing the urging of Mo Mu, Gon and Kurapika are two guys who are unwilling to play tricks. He lay directly on the ground, closed his eyes tightly, and turned a deaf ear to the outside world. Kia and Liurio brewed for a while, and then squatted next to Gon and Kurapika. Wake up, what's wrong with you? Shouted anxiously, Kurapika, didn't you say you wanted to become a hunter? Why did you collapse now? Wake up and talk to me. Liurio shouted. Not to be outdone, the voices of the two immediately attracted the attention of everyone present. Everyone turned their attention to Mo Mu 5. They looked at Gon and Kurapika, who were lying motionless on the ground, and Kia and Liurio, who were anxiously shouting at the side. There is also Mo Mu, who stands aside with an ugly face and shakes his head from time to time. For a while, it was not clear what happened. It's too dark. After preparing for so long, just for this hunter test, but in the end, I lost my qualification to become a hunter because of a job that I would never be able to do in my life. No wonder Gon and Kurapika fainted with excitement. Fall, Mo Mu said seriously. There are so many professions in this world. Can food hunter be the only one? Everyone here has their own ideals and goals. We respect your profession, but now you use it as a stumbling block to our future. Do you think our life is just playing as hunter, as an examiner? You can do this kind of thing that forces others. Do you want us to go back this year to practice cooking well and sign up to be a food hunter next year? In other words, you think that if you are strong, You can dictate the career choices of the week. While talking, Mo Mu was already facing Minchi with a sarcastic expression. Minchi was extremely annoyed by what Mo Mu said. He stared at Mo Mu with wide eyes and shouted, "UBD, this is the test question I set. If you can't pass, can you still blame me? If you want nijirai sushi, haven't we already made it? Why do you say that we failed your exam? You didn't see them slandering the food and then took your anger out on innocent candidates like us." Mo Mu with a sneer. He said loudly to Hanzo, is that right? The rest of the candidates were stunned, looking at Mo Mu in confusion. Then he suddenly reacted and nodded hastily. That's right. That's it. We are all innocent. It's all that bald head's fault. Huh. Diverting the conflict. You want me to let you pass? Minchi paused, then said disdainfully she hasn't seen any scenes before, so she won't be fooled by Mo Mu's tricks. Although it is true that Hanzo is very angry with this bald head. 18 too. Do you really think I didn't let you pass because of the smell? Who do you think I am 5.4? I'm the examiner of the hunter test. How could I do such a thing? Minchi was very angry, said UBD, you actually look at me like that, and you plan to make a big fuss about it? Turning black and white here, I really want to kill this BD. On the other side, after listening to Minchi's words, Mo Mu's group was stunned. In their view, it is because of such things that Minchi can't pass the level. But now it seems that this is not the case. Impossible. Don't try to lie to us. You definitely disqualified us because of the smell. Liurio jumped up, pointed at Minchi, and shouted loudly. No, Liurio, maybe the examiner's right. We may have missed something. Kurapika sat up thoughtfully and said, Chapter 66. A heart of ups and downs. Kurapika sat up suddenly. No one was surprised. As long as you are not stupid, you will not think that Kurapika and Gon really fainted from excitement. The people present are rare and strong in the world. How could there be such a weak mental capacity? Moreover, no one would believe the exaggerated acting skills of Kiya and Liurio just now. Now, everyone is watching Kurapika curiously, waiting for him to see the problem. Including Mo Mu, a traveler who is familiar with the plot, is no exception. After all, he has only watched anime, and he doesn't know everything. How could it be possible to know so many details that have never been shown in anime? We will be considered a failure because of the taste, but it's not the examiner's taste, but the reason why we neglected to add flavor to the sushi. Kurapika said slowly under the gaze of everyone, taste? Isn't sushi just made of white rice and fish? Were there other flavors? Mo Mu asked strangely. He recalled the sushi he had eaten and found that there was nothing else except the sauce. 05 sauce. Minchi already has it, so he doesn't need to prepare it. Strange. Mo Mu looked at Kurapika, waiting for an explanation. No, the taste is actually a bit off. Kurapika shook his head and said, Did you find out that there is nothing else here except the ingredients we need? That's right. We've all seen this. Where is there any other smell? Liurio asked, also puzzled. The rest of the people nodded, expressing that they all thought the same way. Kurapika shook his head under the eyes of everyone and said, I thought so too at first, but we overlooked something, and that was the lemon that was left aside. Lemon? What's the matter? Isn't that used to drive away the smell? Kiya asked suspiciously. I thought so before, but now it seems obviously not. It should also be an ingredient for making sushi, but it was ignored by us. This is a test of our ability to collect information on tasks. Having said that, Kurapika was silent. Because if this is really the case, then it seems that it is not an incredible thing for this group of people to be rated as unqualified. After all, what is being tested now is the ability to collect information, which is a must-have ability for Hunter. If the taste is eliminated by the examiner because of personal preference, it would be really uncomfortable. But now, the reason for being eliminated is because their information collection ability is not enough. Then you can't blame the examiner, but you can only blame Mo Mu and others. Hearing this, Mo Mu herself was silent. Gone. In it, is there such unknown information? Mo Mu is having a headache now, and he finds that he can't seem to find a reason to make trouble. It's over. I won't really fail this kind of test that must be completed. Mo Mu is very confused, obviously something that can be passed in the plot. How come he can't do it anymore? Wait, it couldn't be because of Hisoka. There is no Hisoka's murderous behavior of staring at Menchi, which leads to some changes in the plot. Sukamomu gasped. Ho ho ho. Even if that's the case, none of the examinees passed the exam, so it's not justified. While the examinees were waiting for Menchi's final verdict with ugly faces, a heroic voice came from the distant sky. Coming. Mo Mu was overjoyed. Made almost thought he was going to get cold. The appearance of the voice immediately attracted the attention of everyone in Sankuri. Menchi and Bahara were also stunned, stood up abruptly, led the team out of the warehouse, and looked towards the sky. Mo Mu followed closely behind, followed by the rest of the candidates. Things turned around, and the candidates who were not reconciled all followed him out. In the sight of Mo Mu and his group, an airship with the logo of the Hunter Association was slowly flying towards them in the sky. Suddenly, everyone saw a figure and jumped out of the airship that was hundreds of meters high. What? Everyone stared wide-eyed in horror, looking at the figure that fell rapidly. How dare he do it at this height? Doomed. Boom. The figure slammed heavily on the ground in front of the candidates, and there was a loud bang, followed by a wave of unreal dust. Call after the dust dissipated unnaturally. Everyone saw the figure in the smoke. It was an old man wearing wooden clogs. With a smile on his face, he walked out unscathed. President of Netero, Chief Executive of Hunter Testing. Candidates who did not know the existence of none all looked at Netero in awe. Then he looked at the airship hovering at an altitude of 100 meters. Grunt Guru 230. The candidates swallowed hard. They were shocked by Netero's performance of jumping from such a high altitude without any injuries. Among these people, including Hanzo, who is the strongest under the two nefarious people, this is the case. Because they know that if you let them do it too, even if they don't die, they will be injured to varying degrees. Menchi. Netero walked up to Menchi and shouted yes. Menchi replied with his head down. Your test this time is to test whether the candidates have the courage to challenge unknown events. But in the end, you think that the candidates have a problem with their attitude, so the judgment is unqualified, right? Netero squinted, stroking his beard and looking at Menchi. He couldn't help but glance at Menchi's mouth, but he didn't make any other movements. There is lust, but no lust. Or, in other words, being able to control yourself. Look at it a few more times, but it's just a matter of cultivating sentiment. No, it's because all of them didn't find the clues I arranged, so they were disqualified. Menchi explained clam. Why is it different from what the guy from the bean noodles said? Netero paused, nearly ripping his beard off. Chapter 67. You have to try it this time. Mo Mu, like the other candidates, boarded the airship and embarked on the road to re-examination. He was standing by the window of the airship at this moment, watching the scene below. It's just because the airship is flying in the air, even Mo Mu can only see the small mountain in the distance. After getting closer, Mo Mu was able to see how big this mountain is. The mountain as a whole presents a circular trapezoid, which looks like a pudding. And in the middle of the mountain, it seems that because of fission, a huge cliff has been formed. Below the cliff, there's a river passing by. It's amazing. And because it looks like it's being separated from it, it's as if the mountain was cut open by some huge titan with a huge long knife. The power of nature is truly astonishing. Soon, the airship carrying a group of candidates flew over the Pudding Mountain Rock. Under the watchful eyes of the candidates, the airship slowly landed on the top of Pudding Mountain Rock. Scoff. The hatch of the airship opened, carrying a puff of white gas. Then Menchi Swipe walked out of the airship first and stood on the rock. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Menchi walked directly to the edge of the hundreds of feet high cliff. Probing the probe, Menchi scanned the abyss below. The height of 100 feet and the strong wind blowing from the crack made Menchi nod in satisfaction. Afterwards, Menchi waved behind him, indicating that the candidates could come closer. Without any hesitation, Mo Mu came to the vicinity of Menchi early and stood still, looking down at the cliff as well. Afraid? What are you afraid of? He can fly, and you are afraid of falling. However, This scene made the rest of the candidates very frightened. Afterwards, Minchi began to explain the content of this additional test. It's very simple. Just jump down and pick up a spider vulture's egg. Saying so, however, for this statement. Most of the candidates are complaining. Simple? How the hell is it so simple? Only courageous candidates like Gon would watch around the cliff, thinking about how to get the spider vulture's eggs. Cliff Wall know that's simply not possible. Although there are many places to grab on the cliff, if you have superb climbing speed, you should be able to go down. However, the question is whether there will be a strong wind blowing up this place. Rock climbing, which is already difficult to hold steady, is likely to be blown off the cliff wall. In the end, it can only be the result of one death. Because there is a river below, your vision should be very deep. In other words, if you control your falling posture, you should not die. Seeing Leorio's nervous expression, Mo Mu casually reminded for Mo Mu's reminder. Leorio wanted to refute it, but the uneasiness in his heart forced him to pay more attention to the situation of the cliff. At this moment, Minchi glanced at the candidates at the scene boredly, and then quickly took off his shoes. He stood up, glanced at all the candidates, sighed, and reminded, "I'll give you a demonstration first." After finishing speaking, Minchi pushed his feet hard and jumped straight to the cliff in front of him. "Hey, what is this doing?" The examinees exclaimed one after another, walked quickly to the edge of the cliff, and looked down anxiously. Mo Mu, who had been here for a long time, didn't move at all, quietly watching Minchi hanging on those spider silks with ease. At this moment, Minchi was waiting motionless, as if waiting for something important. Time passed slowly as the candidates wondered what Minchi was doing. Suddenly, Minchi let go of his tightly clenched hands and instantly fell downward under the action of gravity. Soon, he let himself continue to fall in the posture of lying in the air. Once again, among the candidates, someone exclaimed again. Tung Minchi precisely grasped a huge spider vulture egg hanging from the spider web, and even continued to fall when he tore off the spider vulture egg. Broken, isn't this courting death? Just when the candidates thought that Minchi was cold this time. Hoo-hoo, a gust of wind blows from below. Minchi was instantly stopped by the gust of wind from falling potential energy. Even after a second, she was even blown directly back to the edge of the cliff. All this, looking at the casual Minchi in front of them, who seemed to be returning from shopping, the candidates were very surprised. I know, there will be strong winds coming from the cracks in the cliffs of this rock. As long as we grasp the timing well, we can do what the examiner does. Among the candidates, someone exclaimed about the strong wind in the crack. This made the candidates, who hadn't reacted, suddenly realize it. But say so. Let them be unprepared and without any safety measures. Jump off the cliff to pick up spider vulture eggs. This is not so easy to do. After Minchi announced the start of testing, Gon was the first to jump, laughing all the while. Kacha and Mo Mu put away the camera expressionlessly. You really don't miss any opportunity. Leorio complained and Mo Mu grinned, and then jumped down without any ambiguity. Seeing this, Fu and the other five also jumped down together. Seeing that Mo and Mu are so brave, the rest of the candidates are not to be outdone. Most of the people, like falling king's beans, jumped off the cliff. Soon, dozens of figures were hung on the spider threads in the crevices of the cliff. If you adjust the atmosphere and add some lighting, it will be a horror movie with an excellent atmosphere. Time is slowly passing by. Mo Mu, a group of candidates hanging on the spider's thread, are quietly waiting for the strong wind on the edge of the cliff to appear. It stands to reason that Mo Mu can fly. Why does he continue to stay here and wait with the rest of the candidates? Couldn't he just fly down and pick off some spider vulture eggs? Indeed, Mo Mu was able to do just that. But why do it? He lived like this kind of thing of hanging on the spider silk, waiting for the time, and then picking the food. I have never seen it, let alone tried it. Now that there is such an opportunity, and whether it is life-threatening if you don't try it, how can you be worthy of yourself? Chapter 68, Delicious. Mo Mu thought so. But after waiting for a while, he, like the other candidates, found that he couldn't grasp the timing of the strong wind at all. This discovery made many candidates a little anxious. Fortunately, Mu doesn't care about this. He himself doesn't know, but Gon beside him knows. Just follow the rhythm of Gon. It's easy. However, among the candidates who didn't know this, there was such a person who was staring at the cliff below nervously at this time, and he was even more frantic in his heart to cheer himself up and fool himself. Suddenly, under the gaze of everyone, he let out a heavy breath and then let go of his hands holding the spider silk. How the examinee let his body fall downwards and then caught a spider vulture egg as he passed by it. The next step is to wait for the strong wind to appear and take him up. However, after a while, when the examinee found that he had fallen to a position where it was almost impossible to go up the cliff again, he cried out in horror. If the timing is wrong, it will put him in danger of serious injury or even death. Fear filled his brain and heart in an instant, so that he could only vent his emotions with screams. Yes, there's a river down there, and it might not die. For Hundred, however, even if he knew this was the case, he still couldn't bear the fear of falling from a high altitude. It was as if this planet threw him away into the universe. What happened to this candidate immediately caused many candidates to show hesitation. Is the timing right or not? It's now. At this moment, Gon beside Mu shouted loudly. Then he let go of his hands and let himself fall quickly. Seeing this, Mu was also delayed. As soon as the fingers of both hands were loosened, they also fell down. This shout was like an order, and most of the candidates let go of their hands. A group of people fell straight down and then grabbed the nearest spider vulture egg. Mu was no exception, and even said that he even took down 2 spider vulture eggs in his hand. Not greedy, mainly because he heard that this stuff is delicious. Who dash? At the same time that Mu and his group grabbed the spider vulture eggs, the strong wind below the gap suddenly hit. The strong wind pushed their bodies and threw them towards the sky above the cliff. The edge of the cliff was right in front of him, and Mu and his party stepped over it. At that time, most of the candidates who brought back the spider vulture eggs from the crevice of the cliff returned to the edge of the cliff safely. The 5 Mu who were holding the spider eagle eggs couldn't help but look at each other, very satisfied with this. At this moment, a scream sounded from the side. Everyone looked at it, but they saw a candidate dancing and falling down. Regarding this, Mu remained indifferent, watching this man waving his hands and feet. He knew what was going on with this candidate. He just missed Gon's instruction and didn't let go of his hand in the first place. If it is at other times, it will be slow. But not here. This little delay directly led to him. Even if he successfully picked off the spider vulture egg, he was still a little short before he could return to the edge of the cliff. Yes, that's just a little bit off. From the examinee who wants to swim back to the cliff, Mu can see the extreme desire for life in his eyes. People are like this. Even if they know they will fall, they may not necessarily die. As long as they calm down and find the right angle, they will not die. However, the fear of falling from a high altitude has already been the unwillingness to lose the hunter test qualification. It made the examinee unable to calm down, let alone control it by himself. After this episode, Min Afk, he also counted how many candidates got the spider eagle eggs. No more, no less, that is dozens of people. In this regard, Liurio said happily that he finally passed the test. However, the second he spoke, he was slapped in the face by Minchi. Minchi's words let the examinees know that getting the spider eagle egg is not considered as completing the test. They also have to cook them and eat them. I thought it would be a difficult exam question. I didn't expect it to be such an easy question. Hearing this, the candidates confidently came to the cauldron that had been prepared earlier. This is another test that tests the candidate's timing. Mu doesn't know how long it takes to cook spider vulture eggs. But, with Gon present and the reaction of Bahara, the insider, Mu doesn't worry about these problems at all. He just needs to wait for the opportunity and pick up the spider vulture eggs with Gon. To be honest, this step is very easy. Soon, Mu, like everyone else, got the cooked spider vulture eggs. Delicious, Mu said in surprise. He looked at the bitten spider vulture egg in his hand. It never occurred to me that the delicacy of an egg would be unbelievably delicious. He has eaten eggs duck eggs and goose eggs. However, Imomu doesn't think eggs are delicious, so it's just okay. However, the pure natural spider vulture egg in his hand is the first time Imomu has eaten the ultimate delicacy since he has lived for so long. How can Imomu let go of this kind of food? Immediately, like everyone else, he entered a state of frantic eating. After a while, he ate all the spider vulture eggs that were the size of a watermelon. In the end, the food was too full, and Imomu had to strengthen his stomach with Nyen Qi to strengthen his stomach's digestion ability. At this moment, a huge gong sounded, which represented that the second test of the hunter test was finally over. In the second half of the second test of the hunter test, a total of 46 people qualified. Minchi announced loudly, set a value that is completely different from the plot. For this, Imomu paused, but he was not surprised. Anyway, now he successfully passed the second test. Then, under the guidance of Minchi, the candidates boarded the airship beside them. Chapter 69. The 72-hour limit. The qualified candidates have already left, and there are no qualified candidates left. They need to wait here for a while, and they will not be able to board the airship until the next airship arrives. Then they were sent to the nearest city, and then left on their own for the return trip. At this time, Imomu and others standing on the airship. There were several people standing in front of them: Netero, Hahuan Yusasiai, Minchi, and Xiahara. In addition, there are some staff that come with the airship. It's just that these staff members didn't come over to look directly at Imomu and the others, but watched secretly from distance. Hello, candidates. This airship will arrive at the next test site at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. During the period before I contact you, you can move freely on this airship. Of course, please don't break into the room that is already occupied, and you can't interfere with the work of the staff for no reason. The Domion man put on a professional smile and said slowly to Imomu and others hearing this. The candidates breathed a sigh of relief. Then, after Netero and the others left, they each looked for a place to rest. Gone, let's go exploring. Only after Netero and others left, Kia couldn't wait to suggest to Gon. For this, Imomu wanted to complain. As far as he knew, Kia himself had an airship pilot certificate, so it could be said that he was already familiar with airships. But now, they have shown interest in the exploration of airships, which makes it difficult for Imomu not to complain. However, he also knew that the reason why Kia behaved like this was because he met a friend who was the same age as him. It's just that compared to the distress of most of the candidates, Gon and Kia's energy is really strong. It has been more than a day since noon yesterday, until now. At this time, neither of them felt sleepy at all, and they even planned to take an adventure in the airship. This kind of energy is really staggering. What he can say is that he is worthy of being a child. The backs of the two little kids quickly disappeared before Imomu's eyes. Regarding this, Imomu just shook his head lightly, but didn't care much. He intends to find a seat and sleep too. After one more day, even he would be quite tired. Although it has the ability to transfer damage, being stuck does not belong to damage. Maybe he will trigger the damage transfer ability only after he has endured for a few days and his body and brain start to be damaged. Of course, there's no need to worry that Imomu will be hypnotized or fall asleep due to other things. Sleepiness is indeed sleepy, but whether to sleep or not, it depends on Imomu's own thoughts. As an ordinary person with ability, Imomu certainly won't try to support her. After all, there is no danger, and if you can sleep or not, you can't practice immortality. As for the volleyball fight between Gon and Kia and Netero, it's none of his business, and it's impossible to succeed. Tossing and moving between square inches is really a bit difficult for Imomu now. You let Netero compete with him in straight line speed. Imomu dares to shake Netero so that he can't even eat the exhaust. Like Imomu, Leorio and Kurapika looked at each other and planned to rest. After a busy day, especially Leorio, he is much more tired than Imomu. I think it's better for us not to let our guard down. According to my guess, there should be other tests here. After all, we are participating in the hunter test. When Imomu and the others were looking for the location, Tampa walked aside and kindly reminded, however, both Imomu, Leorio, and Kurapika ignored Tampa's warning when he was just farting and left silently. After more than a day of testing, people are still not resting like this. Is this testing Hunter or testing the machine? Seeing the three of them leave, the corners of Tampa's eyes twitched involuntarily, sulking secretly. Damn it, just wait, I'll find my chance. And where are the three Murray brothers? Could it be something urgent? I quit the Hunter test? Tampa thought while walking, planning to find another opportunity to interfere with Mo and the others. After finding the seat, Mo sat down directly, leaned against the wall, and fell asleep directly. This time, Mo slept very well. And when he woke up, it was already past 9 o'clock in the morning of the next day. Sufficient sleep makes Yam very energetic. This made him feel that there was no big problem, even if he didn't take a bath. After waking up, I washed up hastily and then had a little breakfast. Everyone, I've been waiting for a long time after a night of sailing. We have arrived at the destination of the third test, and now all candidates are invited to wait at the exit. The bean-faced man's peaceful voice rang through the radio in the airship. Although the voice was calm, it was from the radio after all. Therefore, the examinees were quickly awakened, woke up with eyes open from sleep. The first step for the candidates was to eagerly come to the window to check the environment of the first test. If you don't know the plot, Mo will do the same, instead of washing and eating breakfast like this. Soon, the airship stopped on a high tower. Mo walked in the candidate team and got off the airship together. As far as the eye can see, they're all huge stones. Hello, everyone. The position you're standing on is the top of the tower called the trap tower, and the content of the third test is also very simple. As long as everyone walks to the ground alive within 72 hours, it will be considered a success. The Domion man looked at the examinees in front of him and calmly relayed what the examiner said in the third test. It is very simple in words. However, the candidates who believed in this matter did not fall. Then let's start the test now. Please work harder. After the Domion man had finished encouraging the candidates, he turned around and walked up the stairs of the airship, boarded the airship, and left. After the airship lifted off and left, the candidates who stayed behind became active quietly. Chapter 70, Fall to Death or Be Eaten Alive. Mo looked around and thought about the situation. Although he knew the situation of this level, it was quite difficult to find those hidden secret doors. Of course, this is without using the Nyen key technique. If Mo uses circle, even if the range is not large, he only needs to stick it on the ground, and he can know where the secret door is. It's just that the action is not good looking, and Xiang Mu has no such plan. Mo was not in a hurry, and casually looked at the status of the candidates around him. In a place like the trap tower, which seemed to have no way out, he wanted to know how these people found the secret door. This point is not revealed in the plot, so Mo is very curious about it. After all, if you want to go down to the ground here, it is really not easy to 450. Mo, who was observing, suddenly found a candidate who seemed to feel that they needed to climb down from the bank of the trap tower. Mo is not very familiar with this candidate, but he can remember his performance in the plot. He is candidate number 86, a guy with extremely strong rock climbing skills. The trap tower at the foot, in Mo's view, is almost without gaps. But in the eyes of candidate number 86, there are many gaps in it. Therefore, even if the tower wall is 90 degrees perpendicular to the ground, it is not too difficult for candidate number 86. Under the attention of Mo, Gon, and Kia, after a while, number 86 has already climbed down 1/10 of the height of the trap tower. If nothing else, just give this climber a little more time. Then, it is not surprising to call him by the achievement of the first examinee who went down to the bottom of the tower. However, Mo, who knows the plot, knows that such a thing is simply impossible. If it's really that easy, then as the examiner of the third test, I'm afraid he will be killed by his peers. Sure enough, when candidate No. 86 was still a little away from the middle of the trap tower, the examinees standing on the top of the tower were surprised to find that there were several monsters with strange appearances flying towards them in the distance that day. The target was the candidate No. 86 who stayed in the middle of the trap tower, an awkward position where he could neither go up nor down. Hey, let's go for a while. If you don't let go, you will die. Maybe if you let go, you will only be seriously injured, Emo Mu shouted, suddenly hearing this. Key on the side also nodded in agreement. But the rest of them didn't think that candidate number 86 had a chance of surviving. Whether he let go or not let go, it is almost dead. It's just that this also allows him to choose his own way of death. Whether he was torn apart and eaten alive or fell to his death in an instant, all depended on his guts. Faced with this kind of choice, people who have not experienced it themselves will probably say that they choose to fall to their death and gamble. However, when in situation number 86, the fear of death, even if it would be less painful to die if he fell to his death, he still hesitated and did not choose to let go. Instead, he looked up to the top of the tower and shouted loudly for help. Please help me, although he was asking for help. However, no one could save him. In other words, someone could save him, but he didn't do anything, such as Emo Mu, such as Yermi. Not Gon, though he could try it with a fishing rod. However, the line of Gon's fishing rod is not that long. The total height of the trap tower has reached at least 300 meters. Half of it also has 150 meters. Gon took the head to save it, without rescue, and he was unwilling to let go. Candidate number 86 had no power to resist when faced with the attack of those flying monsters. He could only scream while being taken away by several flying monsters. A few flying monsters hit you in the air, and I ate it all at once, as if I was eating a buffet. TSK, it wouldn't be so painful even if you jumped down, but in the end, because of your own fear, you made yourself die even worse, man. Imomu looked at the flying monsters flying away and said with emotion at the same time, in his heart, there is even more desire for strength. This kind of strength is not just about storing energy and making one's attack power stronger. He also wants to make his body stronger. But Imomu also knows, relying solely on exercise and the aid of Nianki, his growth also has a limit. Netero is one of the models. Hundreds of tons of physical strength, coupled with a powerful Nianki cultivation base. Although it makes Netero's strength surprisingly strong. However, Imomu still thought it was too weak. Much worse than the Ant King. The attack speed is really strong. However, Netero can hit the Ant King countless times, but he can't withstand the Ant King's random attack. This is not what Imomu wants. He has the ability to transfer damage, so he doesn't have to worry about being hurt. However, relying solely on the stored energy to fight, the flexibility is still too poor. In a daze, Imomu began to think about the development of her own universal golden elixir. In his mind, of course, the almighty golden elixir is not limited to the current level. Otherwise, it would not be endowed with a universal vocabulary. A golden elixir must look like a golden elixir. If it cannot strengthen itself, then it is nothing like a golden elixir. It's just that Imomu is still a little uncertain about how to develop the universal golden elixir. There are several directions, turning back and forth in Imomu's heart, which makes him very entangled. Just when Imomu was struggling, most of the candidates did not waste time and gave up the idea of studying the number 86 candidates plan. It was also in 4.2 that they began to look for secret doors on the top of the trap tower. Imomu can fly. In fact, he can really go directly down the wall of the trap tower. It's just that Imomu didn't think of doing this. 72 hours if the guy in the trap tower doesn't open the door after going down. Isn't he going to stay outside for 3 days? Of course, the chances of such a thing are very small. The biggest reason is that Imomu promised Mito to watch Gon, so he must watch. They all agreed, and Yuanmu didn't want to be such a person who broke his promise. As for flying down with Gon, that's even more impossible. Gon specified that he would say that if he wants to participate in the trial or pass the level with his own strength, he doesn't need to think about it. Chapter 71 learned a lot. Imomu directly stepped on the secret door, and with the sound of a mechanism, she landed gently in an empty room. This kind of room, which is almost equivalent to being sealed, made Imomu feel a little depressed. He doesn't like this kind of space very much, and always feels like he's about to suffocate. If it weren't for ruining this place, it is very likely that I will lose my test qualifications. In the end, it will only be worth the candle. Putting away these unnecessary thoughts, Yuanmu looked at the four people beside him. At this time, the four have gone, who were posing in various poses, couldn't help laughing dryly after seeing the people around them for the first time. Just before, they were saying goodbye. But it never occurred to them that they would meet again in less than a few seconds. That's embarrassing. Several people coughed a few times, ignored this stupid thing, and began to look around. For this, Mu thought it was quite funny, but he didn't chase after him. In the eyes of everyone, the room is extremely sparse and empty, and the objects inside can be seen almost at a glance. And the holding table placed alone by the wall became the observation target of Mu and the others. 05 seeing this, Mu and his group also walked over. Way to vote. From now on, the five of you must obey the principle of the minority obeying the majority until the end. On the top of the holding platform, such a passage is being written. All of a sudden, let Leorio and others clearly know the customs clearance conditions of this place. Because Mu knew the situation a long time ago, he didn't feel much about it. Soon, the introduction of the third test examiner in the broadcast was also finished. Hurry up and put it on. We started earlier, and we can pass the level earlier. Mu said as he picked up a countdown wristband and put it on his left wrist without any hesitation. Seeing this, the other four nodded their heads. This was obviously necessary, unless one of them is going to drop the test. But this is simply impossible. After all five people put on their wristbands, there was a rumbling sound. At this time, in front of Mu and the others, in the closed room with no exit, a wall the size of a door suddenly rose, revealing the thick iron door behind the wall. Do you want to open this door? O/X 5 people stood in front of the iron gate, and a question option appeared on the screen on the iron gate. Faced with such a silly choice, Mu and the others couldn't help but roll their eyes. Is this something to consider? If you don't open the door, do you want to stay here until you lose your test qualification? Shaking their heads, Mu and the others casually pressed the E button on their wristbands. Beep beep. After the 5 people selected the option to open the door, the iron door also opened in response. The situation is much better now. There is no Tampa in the plot to make trouble. The choices of Mu 5 people, in most cases, can be consistent, even if it is a different choice. For the 5 people who all know each other, the atmosphere will not be depressing. It will only be relaxed and happy. This kind of test came in together with 5 people we know. For us, it is not difficult to choose at all, Leorio said with a very embarrassed smile. Leorio's embarrassment. Although he didn't like this performance, his words got everyone's approval. It's just that people are different after all. Since childhood, the personal living environment is different, the family education is also different, and, of course, the people and things they come into contact with are also different. This has also caused their personalities, thinking, and 3 views to be different. Everyone is unique, especially Leorio and the 4 of them. Mu is okay. His previous life was very ordinary, and he can be regarded as the choice of ordinary people. Moreover, he also knows the plot, so he just needs to make choices accordingly. But the situation of the Leorio 4 is different. One family was almost wiped out. One was a family of killers. One was watching a friend die in pain, and one could be regarded as a single-parent family. It is precisely because everyone is like this that there are bound to be differences in some choices. Just like Mu and their current situation. After walking a few steps, the question in front of them made them choose whether to go left or right. There was a slight difference in the choice between them. Both Leorio and Gon chose the left. However, the final decision of the 5 people still chose the right side. Although it seems that 5 people are choosing, Mu knows that the most important person is himself. The choices of Gon and Minefield are almost without brain. In most cases, their choices will be the same. However, Kia and Kurapika are deliberate, and their choices will be biased. In the next choice, it is estimated that there will be many pairs of opposites. At that time, Mu, the middleman, his choice will become the most critical link. As it is now, left or right is his choice. However, in order to be able to pass safely, Mu still chose the most familiar route for 570, which is the right side. After all, his purpose of coming here is very clear. Just to be hunters? Make trouble? Let go for now. Wait, shouldn't you choose the left side for this kind of choice? Leorio asked with a puzzled expression. Gone on the side was also puzzled, but he didn't say much, just looked at Mu and Karapika curiously. Faced with this kind of inquiry, Karapika explained in a rare and serious way, "No, from the perspective of behavior, when people make direction choices, they almost always choose the left side. As long as the examiner understands this, I'm afraid he will arrange a more difficult test for us on the left." "Yes, I've heard of such things." Kia nodded and said, "I didn't say that. Of course I chose the right." Mu said with a smile. Leorio said very angrily, "If you want to choose the right side, you should say it earlier." Of course, it's also possible that the examiner knew this and put a harder test on the right. Mu waved his hands and said, "But no matter which side it is, we have to choose one." "You're right, it's true." Leorio no longer struggled. Gon listened and nodded in a daze, receiving a lot. Chapter 72, Leorio F. Ed. The atmosphere of the few people was very good, talking and laughing as they walked towards the right passage they had chosen before. The pace was unhurried, but it didn't take long before the road ahead was cut off. In front of the few people, there was a bottomless abyss, and in the middle of this abyss stood a large stone ring. On the other side of the arena, there is another passage. Presumably, that is Mu's customs clearance route. And in that passage, there are 5 prisoners wearing prison clothes hiding in the darkness at this time, watching them quietly. We are the hired trial officers of this test. If you want to continue to pass the level, you must compete with us. The format of the competition is one-on-one, and the order is up to you to decide. The content of the competition is proposed by us, and you have the right to discuss it. There is no tie in the competition. There are only 2 options: admit defeat and die. Now you can discuss whether you want to participate in this competition. If you accept, press O. If you refuse, press X. When Mu and the others were observing the aisle and couldn't see the real prisoners, one of the prisoners directly took off his cloth prison clothes, announcing the test content of this position loudly to Chow Mu and the others. It's very simple and very complicated. It's just a variety of different competitions. A vote is a must. Without a vote, Mu, they can only be trapped here. Beep beep. As the Mu 5 people pressed their fingers to start voting, a few seconds later, the voting screen showed that all 5 of their votes passed. "Quick battle. I'll be the first." Mu said in front of Leorio, "That guy should be a mercenary. There is a high probability that it will be a battle-type competition, and it is not suitable for you to go up." Mu is so active. Leorio has something to say about it. "If you fight, I can do it too." Shaking his head, Mu said slowly, "The mercenary on the opposite side, I'm afraid the choice of the competition will be a death match, and this method is used to buy time." "Leorio, your strength is not bad for ordinary people, but you will definitely not be his opponent. Don't rush to refute. Look at Karapika, and they didn't refute my words." Hearing what Mu said, Leorio looked angrily at the 3 of Gon who were nodding aside. Without waiting for Leorio to speak, Mu continued. "That is to say, if you go up to fight him, the most likely thing is that he strangles you by the neck and then abuses you hard, making you speechless." "Impossible. Absolutely impossible. I will lose to such a small character, Gon. Do you think I will lose to him?" Leorio shouted angrily, facing Leorio's words. Gon scratched his cheek with his fingers dryly. Although he didn't speak, everything was in silence. Watching this scene, Leorio only felt that his heart was stabbed severely. "BD, I'll prove it to you." Leorio shouted angrily as he spoke. He raised his hand and shouted, I'm the first person to play." "What?" Gon never thought that Leorio would make such a fuss, and Mu was taken aback for a moment. Even if he came back to his senses immediately and wanted to stop it, it was already too late. Below the passage, a small path stretched out to the side of the ring in the abyss. The person in the first competition is confirmed. "No, I'll go," Mu said to the radio on the side. "Rejection. Those who have already made a decision cannot make changes. Candidates, please hurry up to the ring." Obviously, it is impossible for Mu's words to be passed. Hearing this, Mu couldn't help but gritted her teeth and felt a headache. Then he breathed a sigh of relief and regained his composure. He patted Leorio's shoulder expressionlessly and said, "You wish for luck." "Hey, Leorio, you are really brave, but remember to admit defeat. Otherwise, we are afraid that we will lose the qualification of the test." Key said with a smile. Kurapika lowered his head with a headache and persuaded him. "Leorio, don't be too confident. Come on, Leorio." Gon cheered Leorio up and shouted, "It's still Gon who can talk. Neither of you thinks highly of me. Just watch. I will win this competition." Leorio felt that his self-esteem had been severely hit, and he said, very unconvinced in this regard, "What else can Momu do?" He can only say with a blank face, "Yes, yes, please work hard." "Well, if the situation is not right for a while, I will directly hit Leorio and make him admit defeat. No matter what, let that mercenary catch Leorio. Otherwise, things will be difficult." However, the situation here will also be watched by the examiner, and he will act blatantly, for fear that he will be sentenced to cheating. It seems that I can only be a little overcast. Leorio is doomed to lose this game. For the next candle competition, it is better to let Gon go. As for the guy with the spider tattoo, I'll do it. Kurapika keeps saying that he wants to seek revenge from the spider, but if he is really asked to do it, I'm afraid he won't do it. With good intentions, there will always be reservations when doing things. He didn't even want to kill. He only thought of the other party to admit defeat. I'm afraid there will be a lot of trouble and a waste of everyone's time. In the end, the woman guesses the question of male and female and can let Kurapika go up. Either win or lose. We must all pass this competition. Let's discuss the content of the competition. My suggestion is deathmatch. The mercenary on the ring looked at Leorio and said with a flamboyant smile. The expression on his face looked very cold and stern, and it seemed that he was definitely not a good person. Of course, here are all prisoners, and there can be no good people. Wong Nuozho. His real name is Badu Te. In this trap tower, an ultra-long-term robber and murderer was sentenced to 199 years in prison. And now, the guy's standing in front of Leorio in order to reduce his punishment. I'm afraid that I could do anything, but to abuse others and silence others is simply too childish. Except, Leorio said, frowning Batot, who thought he could delay this choice for some time. Now he was also stunned, and then came back to his senses and said with a smile, "If that's the case, then let's fight." As soon as the voice fell, Badu launched a rapid charge with his fastest speed and most fierce expression. Its imposing manner will also make Leorio's heart pause slightly. Fortunately, he is not a coward, and he was not frightened. Gritting his teeth, he got ready. Chapter 73, I think you are a joke. I surrender. Leorio, who shouted out the word admit defeat with difficulty, fell directly on the ring, panting heavily. At this moment, he still had a look of surprise and uncertainty in his eyes, an intense resentment. He originally thought that he could defeat the enemy and win this competition. However, he obviously underestimated the other party's experience. At the beginning of the battle, he fell into the situation of being suppressed and could only resist with effort. Although he fought hard to resist, he wrestled with his opponent for several rounds. However, in the end, he was caught, and the enemy grabbed his own neck. If it wasn't for the fact that the opponent let go suddenly for some unknown reason, he wouldn't be able to say the word admit defeat, dragging down Momu and the others. The failure made Leorio feel ashamed to face Momu and them. After all this time, he forced himself to choose to play. Beep Leorio squinted at the digital display above their side of the aisle. At this time, the number above has already changed its appearance from 0 to 1. The scores suddenly changed from 930 to 0 to 1. They are 1 point behind. What are you doing? Why'd you let him go in the end? You could have held on to it for 72 hours. Yeah, you guy, you shouldn't be soft-hearted. Idiot, also need some time to commute my sentence, but you have to live to get it. What's the meaning? Badu, who had returned to his side of the passage, looked in the direction of Momu with an ugly expression on his face. The other party has a strong man with special abilities. When I was holding that little guy's neck just now, something attacked my numbness, which made me let go of my hand involuntarily, which made that little guy open your mouth and admit defeat. Suck. Hearing Dut's words, on the field, except for the big man sitting in the dark. The others all gasped. They are aware of the existence of people with special abilities. After all, in this trapped tower prison, the Warden Lieber is such an existence. Although they themselves don't have any special abilities, they are very impressed with this ability. It's just that they think that special abilities are innate, and they don't know that these abilities can be obtained through practice. In the next competition, you must not choose combat as the content of the competition, otherwise, we won't be able to delay it for an hour. After listening to Batdut's words, the other three nodded their heads, while Bato warned the rest of the prisoners. Leorio, who returned to the passage on his side, lowered his head and apologized very remorsefully. That's good too. Haven't we ruled out a powerful opponent? Gon smiled and comforted Leorio. Kia didn't speak and didn't care about it. I only lost once, so there's still 4 chances. Most importantly, he does not have to pass the hunter test to become a hunter. Dispensable things, so what if you lose? Karapika will not say Leorio at this time, because he knows it is not suitable to say these things at this time. As for Imomu, anyway, he will win in the end, and he doesn't care about it. At most, it's just a little late to win, which is not a big problem. Soon, the second prisoner came on stage, a thin man with mid-length hair. As for Imomu, it is still the same as the plot gone. Saija's competition proposal is still the same as the plot, and the candles held by both parties will burn longer. The contest between Gon and Saija did not change at all. Gon's candle burned the fastest at the beginning. But in the end, relying on Gon's quick wit, he still managed to win the competition, just like in the plot. So far, Imomu's side has moved back to a game, reaching a score of 1-1. Yeah, good job, Gon. Leorio shouted excitedly, pumping his fists now. As long as they win 2 more games, they will be able to pass this test. In this way, Leorio's inner self-blame can also be reduced. As for the prisoners, they will have no sentence to reduce or remit. The third match also started as usual. It's just that the situation is different from Imomu's impression. This time it wasn't the cowardly and strong man in blue who came up. It was the woman who bet with Leorio on whether she was a man or a woman in the plot, and was given tofu by Leorio. At the beginning, Imomu planned to play the card, and he will play again next time. But he didn't want to. Kurapika didn't want to compete with the opponent at all, because he was also worried that this would be a life and death struggle. For men, Kurapika can still kill, but for women, he can't do it. As a last resort, Mu can only play by himself. Standing in the ring, Imomu thought that the other party would have a gambling competition, but I didn't want to. The other party didn't mean to mention gambling at all. Instead, he chose another weird competition. I can't help laughing. Yes, keep laughing. It's a competition between the 2 sides who can hold back the laughter, and whoever can't hold back the first will be considered a loser. During this period, both parties can use any method to make each other laugh. Yes, anyway, Imomu has 1 head and 2 big ones. Never thought it would be like this. This gave him a headache. At the beginning of the competition, Missouri Mu had some infinite moves. Seeing Imomu like this, the other party was also happy and relaxed, delaying the time well. What to do? It's so difficult to make others laugh. Gon said anxiously. Yeah, if you say hit someone, I'll teach her how to behave every minute, so I want her to laugh. How should I do this? Kia said speechlessly, Imomu. Scratch her soles, scratch her armpits. I don't believe she doesn't laugh. Leorio said loudly, Leorio, this is sexual harassment. Kurapika had to remind Leorio, even if the other party is a prisoner, this is sexual harassment. It will not change because of this. Also, she was able to raise this point because she must be very confident in her body, so she shouldn't laugh because of this. So, we can make her laugh by telling jokes. Leorio shouted with bright eyes, Yes, Imomu, tell a joke. I think you are a joke. Imomu said angrily. Chapter 74. Hey, why are you still scolding me? Leorio didn't care what Imomu said. He just wondered why his proposal was not accepted. Obviously, Imomu probably won't tell jokes. Kia said with a shrug on nodded and said, Also, I won't scratch people's soles and armpits. What should I do? If I knew this, I wouldn't be the first one to go up. If I were allowed to go up now, we would have one, Lirio said, very annoyed hearing these words. The three of Kurapika looked at Lirio with serious expressions on their faces. Obviously, this was amused by Liorio's crazy speech. Emomu didn't pay attention to Liorio's tricks. He was thinking about it. How can I make the woman in front of me laugh out loud? Dealing with him will never want him to laugh, because once he smiles, the other party's attempt to procrastinate will fail. However, Emomu is also clear that he wants to make the woman in front of him smile. The difficulty is actually quite high. The woman in front of her, named Juan Leilut, is also a super long-term prisoner. It's different from other people who entered this trap tower because of murder. Leilut was sentenced to 112 years of hard labor for participating in the trafficking of rare creatures and violating the gambling law. In addition, she is also a psychiatrist who is especially good at psychological warfare. This kind of person wants to make her laugh. It's hard for Xiaomu to imagine that he can succeed. In the plot, the content of the competition with Lirio is gambling. The two of them first gambled on the life and death of the big blue-skinned man and whether he passed out. In the end, Lirio lost the bet, but it also ended the battle that Kurapika had not yet finished. Afterwards, Leilut took advantage of Liorio's lustful psychology and gambled on whether she was a man or a woman, disturbing Liorio's heart. Finally, in the fist-guessing competition, they used psychological warfare again and almost won the time of Lirio and his party. Lirio not only lost the competition, but also lost 50 hours of time because of it. The current score is 1-1. If I admit defeat this time and end the competition quickly, then continue. The battle between Kurapika and Kiya must be won. I don't need to worry about combat power. However, Kurapika's temperament is also a problem. Emomu is also worried. If Kurapika makes a mistake in the end, then he will be in trouble. All members are disqualified from the hunter test. TSK, I still have to work hard. Thinking like this, Emomu looked deeply at the red-haired woman in front of her. A head of hair that was carefully groomed, even in prison, was tied into two fan-shaped double ponytails by two yellow ribbons. A simple yellow-gray prison uniform couldn't hide her fair skin that hadn't seen the sun all year round. The body is a little petite, and the face is not old. It is hard to believe that such a woman will be sentenced to 112 years in prison. It is conceivable that the rare creatures that this woman sold before probably touched the interests of those high-level officials in the country. Gambling is probably also caused by psychiatrists. Let's be honest, a psychiatrist in any world is a dangerous profession because it will be in contact with too many criminals. This woman, Leilut, is probably also after meeting a gambler. She found that gambling is very interesting and then went crazy. Just like the Harley Quinn in the DC world, because she came into contact with such a neurotic as the clown, she also made herself crazy. Facing Emomu's sizing up, Leilut looked at him flawlessly, with a flat expression and no intention of smiling. A few minutes passed slowly. Seeing that Lirio is very anxious, he can't wait to go up and change. Would you like to do something for me? I can save you all the punishment time. Emomu said, suddenly calm. What? Everyone was stunned by Emomu's words. Even Leilut himself was laughed at by Emomu's arrogance. In this kind of place, facing his 112 years of punishment time, a hunter candidate dared to say that if she was asked to do something, she would be exempted from her punishment time? Little brother, do you know what you're talking about? Who do you think you are? Leilut said to Emomu with a smile zero, asking for flowers. Facing Leilut's words, Emomu didn't care, but turned to look at the camera on the side and said, I should have one. Forehead. Yeah. Well done, Emomu. Lirio jumped up and shouted excitedly after being stunned for a moment. Waving his fist, Kurapika on the side also smiled. Gon and Kiyu were very emotional. The prisoners were not happy about this. On the contrary, it was the person involved, but Leilut ignored it and continued to smile. While laughing, he wiped his tears from laughing. Little brother, it seems that what I said is not wrong. You're a very good joke. I haven't laughed so happily for a long time. Thank you. Leilut adjusted his emotions. Then he said to Emomu, looking at Leilut in front of him, and Mo Mu shrugged and said, "It's the truth. There's nothing you can do if you don't believe it." After finishing speaking, he didn't care about Lei Lut's stunned expression and returned to his side of the passage. As a psychiatrist, Lei Lut has her own research on whether Mo Mu is lying. And after her analysis, she found out. Mo Mu, a hunter candidate who seemed to her to be just a teenager, really didn't lie. Instead, she's really confident that she can reduce all the punishment time. Is it too incredible? Not a lie. Then why do you think you can reduce the sentence time of a severe prisoner? And it is still such a long sentence as 112 years? Whatever it was, she knew it was an opportunity. Even if it doesn't work, she still wants to try. If you fail, you will be disappointed at most. I'm willing to do things for you. Situation, Lei Lut shouted loudly to Mo Mu's back hearing this. And Mo Mu paused, then said without turning her head, "Then wait quietly for a while." "Okay." Lei Lut nodded heavily and said even if he went back to the passage and was ridiculed crazily, Lei Lut didn't show anything. Chapter 75, 3-1. Although the matter between Lei Lut and Mo Mu caused a lot of doubts and ridicule. However, none of these can stop the competition from continuing. Now their score has come to 1-2. Mo Mu and his group, they only need to win one more game, and they will pass. Boom. At this moment, a small situation appeared on the side of the prisoner. A big man casually smashed a big hole in the wall beside him, and then stood up. "Go away," Johnny said, without questioning. Faced with this request, the remaining blue-skinned prisoner who hadn't appeared on the scene shrank to the side and was scared. "I suggest that we give up this competition. Even if we lose, we still have another chance. There is no need to take risks." Leorio looked at Johnny's face with an extremely sad expression. 720-inch said with a look, "I agree." Karapika, who has not played yet and experienced the spider incident, also saw Johnny's identity and suggested obviously. Both of them knew the horror of the Johnny in front of them. For the sake of safety, they felt that it was worth giving up a competition. Kia put his hands in his trouser pockets and said boredly, "Aren't you going? Then I'll do it." "Kia, don't be brave. That's not a role you can deal with." Leorio shouted loudly. He wanted to stop Kia and let Kia play. Because, in Leorio's opinion, that's really stupid. "Not a character I can deal with." Kia was stunned for a moment, then squinted and said with a smile, "If it's true, that would be great." After speaking, Kia walked on the stone path casually, without giving Leorio and the others a chance to stop them. "Damn it," Leorio said angrily, and Mo Mu squinted at Leorio and said, "What are you doing? You think the other party is a murderous monster with strong strength? Think Kia will not be his opponent, isn't it?" Leorio said angrily, "Damn it, if I could win, this kind of thing wouldn't happen." And Mo Mu glanced at Leorio's self-blaming appearance, but didn't continue talking about him. Instead, he shrugged casually and said, "Don't worry, Kia's strength is much stronger than yours. On the court, besides me, is the strongest one." "Suck." Leorio gasped. "Really? How is this possible? Doesn't he look like that?" Leorio said in confusion. In his opinion, although Kia's strength is indeed good, it is only good. But now, according to Mo Mu, Kia is the second worst among them. Regarding Mo Mu's statement, and the person who thinks he is the strongest, Leorio does not believe it. However, whether Leorio believes it or not, the situation will not change. Just when he was wondering, Kia had already completed the competition. "Grunt, what kind of stunt is this trick? How can it take out the human heart all at once?" Leorio shouted in horror. Kia didn't hide this, but changed the shape of her palm, casually like a child would show off. "Of course it's not a stunt, it's just a simple way to take out his heart," Kia said, waving his arms. In this competition, the rule of 5 rounds and 3 wins was used. Now Mo Mu, they, and the prisoner score is 3-1. Already completed the competition. Although there is still one game that has not started. It is over, and there is no need for the last prisoner to come up. Of course, the last prisoner who couldn't compete didn't dare to say anything at all. When facing Mo Mu and his group, he timidly got out of the way behind him and let Mo Mu and the others walk over. When the road was given to Lei Lut, Mo Mu nodded to her and didn't say much. Now, there's no such thing as losing $0 hours to Liurio in the plot. The time Mo, Mu, and the others have is also extremely loose. When there's enough time, the atmosphere of Mo, Mu, and his group is also very pleasant. In this atmosphere, the group continued to walk slowly forward. After a while, the slow-moving people came to another choice. There are 2 more doors ahead. One is on the left, the sun is on the right. Choose the gate again. Liurio looked at the 2 doors in front of him and said, "How do you say? Do you still want to choose the right side?" Gon walked between the 2 doors and asked while looking at the door key on the side, is also thinking and looking at it. Kurapika shook his head and guessed, "No, if I were an examiner, I wouldn't use the same method for the second time. This time we should choose the left side. Wait, I think we should still go to the right," Liurio said with a firm face. "After all, how do you know that the examiner won't use the right rule again?" Liurio is right. This is indeed something we should think about. After all, if the examiner does the opposite, deliberately grab our minds and predict our predictions, then the chances of going to the right will be greater. Kurapika said slowly after pondering. "That's right. He predicted our prediction, and we can also predict his prediction and make his plan fail." Seeing that Kurapika agreed with his words, Liurio smiled proudly. Mu, what do you think? Although the analysis of Liurio and Kurapika was good, Kia's intuition told him that the chance of going left is higher. However, he is also not sure about this, so it is necessary to find someone who is still thinking to verify it. 2.5. I think it should go to the left. Mu pointed to the door on the left and said, "Trouble. There is no picture here in the plot. How do I know which way to go? Right now, it's just a matter of intuition." At this moment, Mu felt very helpless. "I thought that there should be a direct path to follow, and then I will reach the disputed choice in the plot. But I don't want to. The situation has become like this. Since everyone has their own ideas, they can only pass the vote. It is agreed that in the end, no matter whether it is left or right, don't be angry." Liurio made everyone's psychology in advance, so as to have a psychological preparation. Then, why did you choose the left side? And there are still 4 votes. Chapter 76 turns out to be the 1999 version of the plot. I can't believe Liurio's incomprehension. The 4 of Mu looked at each other, then shook their heads and walked toward the passage on the left. Seeing this, Liurio rushed to catch up and ask, "Don't get me wrong, we are not targeting you. We just feel that your luck is a little bit bad, avoiding your choice. That is the right choice." Mu patted Liurio's shoulder and said these words were agreed by the 3 of Gon, who looked at Liurio and nodded in agreement. Liurio looked at the 4 of Mo and Mu dumbfounded, pointing at them and saying nothing. "Let's go. Who knows how much time it will take?" Mu greeted several people and said the 3 of Gon also followed closely, leaving only Liurio standing there in a daze. "Stop. Tell me clearly, what makes my luck worse?" Liurio came back to his senses and shouted loudly at the backs of Mu and the others. Faced with these words, Mu and the others completely ignored them and even laughed. Although they encountered many traps along the way, the strength of Mu and the others was not enough. Except for Liurio, who was having a bit of a hard time, the rest is fine. 0-5 in this way. Mu and his group soon came to the last selection mechanism in the plot. Now there are 2 options before them. The first one is that there is a long and difficult route for them to choose. This route can pass 5 people, but it takes at least 45 hours to pass the customs. The other route is a very fast route. It only takes 3 minutes to reach the bottom of the trap tower, but it can only pass through the owner. If this is placed at the time of the plot, if there are only a dozen hours left for a group of 5 people, then it must be carefully considered. But now Mu and the others still have a full 68 hours left. Guys, choose the hardest route, even if it takes another 50 hours. How about even 60 hours? Mu and the others still have 8 hours left. They have so much time, Mu and the others don't have to think about it all. Everyone directly pressed the button and directly chose the path that could pass 5 people. As for the difficulty issue, hey, it's not that they are bragging. Among the people present, except Leorio's response is a little behind, and Mo Mu and others need help from time to time. As for the difficulty of the trap they encountered just now, how difficult is it? Easily passed all kinds of traps. When we got to the bottom of the tower, except for Leorio's tired face, the rest of Mo Mu's mental outlook was very good. There's no way they're doing a hunter test. And here, Mo Mu's third test is over. Next, they just need to wait for the time to end, and they will be cleared. A few people found a place at random in the hall on this floor and sat down to rest. Well, not all of them. Just Mo Mu, Leorio, and Karapika. Gon and Kia are too energetic, and they still haven't stopped being good friends. The team has already begun to explore the situation on this layer. Seeing this, Mo Mu shook his head, then closed his eyes, meditating on the redevelopment plan of the almighty golden elixir. In this case, time is passing by rapidly. After Mo Mu and the others reached the bottom of the tower, the remaining 10 hours were consumed in this way. And now, the third test is officially over. The number of people who passed, it was surprising, and it turned out to be different from the plot that Mo Mu knew. Only 24 people passed in the plot. However, Mo Mu observed the number of people around and found that there were at least 34 people here. Even without the three brothers Hisoka and Moria, there are still 34 people. This point really surprised Mo Mu. Calmly, Mo Mu followed the flow of people out of the trap tower one by one under the guidance of the examiner. After leaving the tower gate, the first thing Mo Mu saw was the endless sea. Coupled with the slight sea breeze blowing across his face, and the warm sunshine shining on Mo Mu, who has not seen the sun for 3 days, he only felt refreshed. Afterwards, Mo Mu saw Lieber, the examiner who hadn't met in the third test. At this time, he was standing in front of the candidates, waiting with a smile. And Mo Mu found Lieber's hair condition. The messy, wind-blown hair already showed that he had been waiting here for a while. I'm Lieber, the examiner for the third test. First of all, I would like to congratulate all candidates. You have passed the third test. So here, please immediately board the airship behind me. Lieber looked at the candidates with a smile, then pointed to the airship that was slowly rising behind him and said, Airship? Shouldn't you be drawing a number? And then an island for match 4. After listening to Lieber's words, Mo Mu couldn't help but paused, feeling very puzzled. 827. No, wait, this is not the plot of the 2011 version, but the 1999 version. Of course, he has seen these two versions of animation, and he also knows the difference between the two versions of animation. Although, these two editions of the anime are all about the story of the world of Hunter x Hunter. However, Mo Mu knows that there are some differences in the plot between the two. For example, in the 2011 anime, Gon and the others relied on their boats to forcibly slide down the last 3-minute passage. In the 1999 version of the anime, it was a little different. They used a different method. First, they used Kiya's skateboard as the chassis, and then used Gon's fishing rod to fix it, and then installed a large wooden board on top. It can accommodate 5 people together. In this way, a large skateboard was made, and 5 people passed the final journey together like this. It was all before the end of the countdown, and the customs clearance was completed. Of course, this is a small matter. The most important thing is, in 2 versions of the anime, after the third test, the plot is different. In the 1999 version of the anime, between the third test and the fourth test, a plot of Gunkanjima was added, which is the current situation. Chapter 77. You'd be a fool if you believe it on the airship. Mo Mu walked to the window and casually cast his sight on the sea below. Seeing the sea blue water shimmering there, Mo Mu couldn't help but relax. It seems that my mood is much better. The speed of the airship is not fast, but it is not slow. After all, it is flying in the air. No, after flying for a while, Mo Mu noticed the situation on the sea not far from here. There's a crescent-like island staying there alone. In this regard, the rest of the candidates also observed. Compared with what other candidates saw, what Mo Mu saw would be clearer, relying on the strengthening of the Nyanki that will be on the eyes by concentration. Mo Mu's vision has also been strengthened, not just allowing Mo Mu to see the thoughts hidden by others. And near the crescent island, he saw the wreck of the big star hitting the rocks, just like a plot. There are so many shipwrecks even on the surface of the sea, so there must be many sunken ships in the bottom of the sea. By the way, under the surface of the sea, there seems to be all kinds of priceless treasures. Thinking of this, Mu's eyes lit up involuntarily. Tiske, although the matter of money is a trivial matter, it is my luck to meet such a good thing here. Mu rubbed his chin and muttered. His voice was so small that no one could hear it except himself. There is no doubt Mu is paying attention to those treasures. Although you can't get all the treasures, you can always get a little bit. Holding the idea of wealth and freedom, Mu laughed. If it weren't for his lack of spatial ability, his idea would not be just to take a little bit. I'm afraid that even if he is still participating in the hunter test, he will pick up all of them. Let's find a way to leave. Smiling, Mu quickly adjusted her mood again and restrained her expression. In this way, the airship quickly landed on the Crescent Island. They did not land on any flat mountain because there are people living here, and there is also an apron. But this is not a built house, but a huge warship embedded in the mountain. The airship landed on the tarmac of this huge warship. From the window, on this warship, not only the tarmac is clean, but also the deck and many places have been carefully cleaned. Following the flow of people, Mu and the others got off the airship together. An elderly couple appeared in front of them. Although they were just two old people, Mu could tell that their bodies were very strong. When the rest of the examinees saw the two old couples, they also guessed that maybe the old couples were the examiners of the fourth test. In this regard, Mu, who knew the plot, did not refute Leorio's guess, because this couple is really the assistant examiner for this test. Although there is no thought energy, but the physical fitness is not low. Every candidate has worked hard. Welcome to our hotel. The old couple bowed to Mu and his group of candidates. Mu knows that the current arrangement is actually a temporary plan for the Hunter Association to allow candidates to rest for a period of time. But since it is related to the Hunter Association, Mu believes that this matter is probably another conspiracy of the Hunter Association. After all, otherwise, it would be impossible for the Hunter Association to send them here without going anywhere. Also, for things like rest, Mu thinks that it can be done no matter in the airship or in the Glasses Island. But the Hunter Association chose not to do this. This made Mu have to wonder, did the Hunter Association specially let them come here to do white jobs to help them find treasure? Mu, who thinks of ordinary people, secretly slandered the Hunter Association in his heart. But he also knew that this was just his own wild imagination. In the plot, those treasures were not taken away. We are the owners of the only hotel on this island. My name is Bana, and this is my husband Gina. The old lady Bana smiled and introduced the situation of herself and her wife to the candidates very gently. In this regard, Mu listened casually and did not intend to interrupt. Are you saying that this is a hotel? Really? Hanzo, the Chatterbox representative, took a step forward and asked the two couples directly. Yes, this warship has been remodeled by us, and then cleaned up, and now it can provide you with accommodation and food. The old gentleman, Gina, introduced the warship under everyone's feet with a smile on his face. The two old men remodeled a stranded warship by themselves, and they were able to clean it up. Mu doesn't believe in such a thing. In it, there is definitely the handwriting of other Nin people. Even if there are no Nin people to join, there will be many strong young people who will start to transform. This hotel once had the honor of receiving King Nibera, and many celebrities have stayed here. Our hotel is known as the Bahia Palace on the sea. G's expression recalled the past, said with pride, "You too, let's not talk so much nonsense. I think you should also be the examiners of this hunter test." Hanzo interrupted the memories of the two old people and said with a determined face, "Qian de Zhao." Hearing this, Gina and Bana looked at each other as old people, and then Bana nodded and said, "You're right." Then, without waiting for Hanzo to speak, Bana turned sideways to the Mu candidates behind Hanzo and said, "Now, let me convey the message of the Hunter Association to you. Every candidate, you have worked hard in the third test. Considering everyone's physical condition, We will test the fourth test 3 days later. During these 3 days, please rest here to your heart's content." With a smile on her face, Bana announced to Chow Mu and others the information given to her by the Hunter Association in a calm tone. In this regard, Mo Mu raised her eyebrows and was not moved by it. Knowing the plot, he knew that the so-called 3-day rest period was just a cover. If you believe it, you are really stupid. Chapter 78. The old couple on Battleship Island. He is thinking about one thing now. Tonight, the two will leave in an airship. If he boarded the airship at that time, does that count as a successful pass? Mo Mu is very curious about this. Okay, here we go. Try it tonight. Then bring Gon with them. Thinking like this, Mo Mu decided to find some time to explain the situation to Gon and the others. "I can't tell you everything. Just talk about your worries. Gon and the others will know what to do." While Mo Mu was thinking about these things, the examinees who heard what the two old men said were excited and discussed. "You can rest." "That's great, but why didn't I say it earlier? Thanks to the fact that I have made so many preparations." "Phew, I'm very tired all over now. It's great to be able to rest." "Yeah, taking advantage of 3 days, so much time. I'm gonna make some adjustments." "Damn it. Why do you have to rest for 3 days? It's too unfair to us." "Yeah, many of us have already rested at the bottom of the tower for 2 days, at least one day. Why should we rest with the 673 people who are stuck in time to pass the customs? I want to file a complaint." "Idiot. There's a reason for the itinerary arranged by the Hunter Association. How could it be possible to make the test unfair?" "That's right, I think so too. How could the Hunter Association let us rest in vain? There are definitely exam questions that we don't know about." "Damn it, I thought I could have a good rest for a few days." TSK, there's still 3 days. As long as I use it well, I can definitely eliminate those newcomers. The Hunter test is not just about strength. Anyway, the test won't start right away. You should be able to take a good bath now and have a good time. The candidates who were talking about it were divided into 2 factions after they learned that they had to rest for 3 days. One faction feels that the Hunter Association is humane. One faction felt that the Hunter Association was unfair. However, in the end, it seemed that something was wrong with the Hunter Association, and it was generally believed that this was after the Hunter Association's exam questions. They directly reached a consensus and agreed to the itinerary. Then they walked towards the cabin together.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.